Jack's bloodied hand still gripped the woman's wrist when she spoke. Not words of thanks, but a question that would haunt him. Why would someone like you risk everything for me? Minutes ago, he'd torn metal with bare fingers to pull her from death's grip beneath that boulder. Now, as cameras flashed and sirens wailed through the mountain storm, her disbelief cut deeper than any wound. He'd saved her life. She couldn't see past his work boots. But before you hear how one moment rewrote both their destinies, drop a comment with your city below. I want to see how far Jack's story travels. Now, let's go back to where it all began. The rain had started 3 hours before Jack's shift ended, turning the mountain pass into a treacherous ribbon of mud and broken asphalt. Most drivers knew better than to take Route 47 during storm season, but Jack didn't have the luxury of most drivers. His 12-year-old pickup truck, held together by rust and prayer, couldn't handle the interstate's steep tolls, and his daughter Emma needed her medication before the pharmacy closed at 9. So there he was, knuckles white on the steering wheel, work boots still caked with concrete dust from the construction site, squinting through wipers that squeaked their protest against the deluge. The radio crackled with static and warnings about mudslides, but Jack had heard it all before. 23 years in this mountain town had taught him to read the hills like other men read newspapers. Every crack in the rock face, every shift in the wind carried its own story. What he couldn't have predicted was the black Mercedes that came screaming around the blind curve ahead, hydroplaning on the waterlogged road like a child's toy skittering across ice. Jack's foot slammed the brake, his truck fishtailing as he watched the luxury sedan's driver overcorrect once, twice, then lose control completely. The Mercedes spun in a graceful, horrible arc, almost ballet-like in its precision, before the mountain decided to claim it. The hillside, already unstable from weeks of rain, simply gave way. It happened in the space between heartbeats, a crack like thunder splitting the sky, the roar of earth moving where earth should never move. And then the boulder, easily the size of Jack's entire living room, came rolling down with the inevitability of judgment itself. The Mercedes never stood a chance. Jack's truck screeched to a stop 20 feet from where the boulder had crushed the sedan's hood and roof, pinning it against the guardrail like an insect under a boot. Steam hissed from the wreckage. The storm seemed to pause, holding its breath. For 3 seconds, Jack counted them later in the sleepless nights. He sat frozen. His daughter's face floated before him. Emma, waiting at home, probably curled up with that astronomy book she'd read 17 times, checking the clock every few minutes. Emma, who'd already lost her mother to cancer 5 years ago and couldn't afford to lose her father too. The smart thing would have been to call 911 and wait. Let the professionals handle it. Jack had no training, no equipment, nothing but a first aid kit that was mostly Band-Aids and expired aspirin. The hillside above groaned ominously, threatening to send more of itself sliding down. But then he saw the hand. Pale fingers pressed against the spiderwebbed window, streaked with blood, trembling, moving. Someone was alive in there. Jack's body made the decision before his mind caught up. He was out of the truck, rain immediately soaking through his flannel shirt, boots slipping on the mud-slicked pavement. The scene resolved into sharp focus as he ran. The boulder had struck the Mercedes at an angle, crushing the hood and roof, but leaving a narrow space where the cabin might still be intact. Might be. "Hold on!" His voice barely carried over the storm. "I'm coming!" Up close, the devastation was worse. The boulder had driven the sedan halfway through the guardrail, leaving it suspended over a ravine that dropped 200 feet into darkness. Every movement could send it over. The metal frame had buckled inward, creating a maze of jagged edges that looked like the mouth of some mechanical beast. Jack circled the wreckage, rain streaming down his face, looking for a way in. The driver's door was pinned against the boulder. The passenger side hung over the void. The back doors were crushed beyond use. Only the rear passenger window showed any promise, cracked but not shattered, still in its frame. He grabbed a rock and slammed it against the window. Once, twice. The third blow sent cracks spiderwebbing further, but the safety glass held. Jack's knuckles were bleeding now, leaving pink trails in the rain. "Please!" The voice from inside was female, young, desperate. "Please, I can't. The water's rising." Jack's blood went cold. He dropped to his knees in the mud, peering under the wreckage. She was right. A ruptured water main or broken stream, he couldn't tell which, was flooding the ravine below, and water was already pooling inside the compressed cabin. In this storm, it would fill fast. "What's your name?" Jack shouted, trying to keep his voice steady as he searched for anything useful. His hands found a tire iron in the mud, probably thrown from someone's trunk in an earlier accident. "Sarah," came the reply, thick with tears and terror. "Sarah Chen, please, I can't feel my legs." Jack wedged the tire iron under the window frame and pulled. His shoulders screamed. The metal groaned. Nothing moved. "Sarah, I'm Jack. I need you to stay calm, okay? Talk to me. Are you hurt anywhere else?" "My head. I think I'm bleeding. Everything's spinning. Oh God, the water." "Don't look at the water. Look at me." Jack repositioned the tire iron, found better leverage. "What were you doing out here in this storm?" "Board meeting. Had to get to the city. The presentation." Her words tumbled out in gasps. "My company. I can't die before the merger goes through." Board meeting. Company. Merger. The words barely registered as Jack threw his full weight against the tire iron. The window frame shifted half an inch, then another. The glass suddenly gave way, exploding outward in a shower of crystalline rain. Jack didn't hesitate. He cleared the remaining shards with his jacket-wrapped hand and thrust his upper body through the opening. The interior of the Mercedes looked like something from a nightmare. The roof had collapsed to within inches of the seats, the dashboard was caved in, and Sarah Chen was trapped in the driver's seat, pinned by the steering column across her lap. But it was her face that stopped Jack's heart. Even streaked with blood and mascara, even pale with shock and terror, she was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Mid-30s maybe, with sharp cheekbones and dark eyes that held intelligence and fear in equal measure. Her black blouse, silk, expensive, now torn and soaked, clung to her frame. Diamond earrings caught the faint light from his truck's headlights. This wasn't just any driver. This was someone important, someone with money. Someone from a world so far removed from Jack's existence they might as well have been from different planets. "Sarah," he said, forcing his voice to stay calm, "I'm going to get you out. But I need to check something first." He reached down, touching her legs gently. She flinched. "Can you feel that?" I don't know. Maybe? It's numb. Everything's numb." Could be shock, could be spinal damage. Jack's construction site first aid training screamed at him not to move her, but the water pooling around her feet screamed louder. "The steering column's got you pinned. I'm going to try to lift it. When I do, you pull yourself toward me. Understand?" "I can't. I'm not strong enough." "Yes, you are." Jack locked eyes with her. "My daughter's 12. Emma. Every day she faces things she thinks she can't do. Every day she does them anyway. You're going to do the same." Something flickered in Sarah's eyes. Maybe hope, maybe just desperation. But she nodded. Jack braced his feet against the center console, gripped the steering column with both hands, and pulled. The metal was slick with rain and blood. His own, he realized distantly. The column didn't budge. Above them, the hillside groaned. A cascade of small rocks pattered against the boulder. "It's coming down again," Sarah's voice climbed toward panic. "Not yet." Jack repositioned, found a better angle. His back muscles bunched. Every hour of swinging hammers, hauling concrete, working double shifts to keep Emma in school. It all came down to this moment. "Not yet." He pulled again, and this time something gave. The steering column shifted upward an inch. 2 inches. "Now, pull yourself toward me." Sarah grabbed his shoulders, her fingers digging into his flannel shirt with desperate strength. She pulled, he pulled, and for a moment they were locked in a strange dance, their faces inches apart, her blood mixing with the rain on his cheeks. "I'm stuck. My foot." Jack looked down. Her ankle was caught in the twisted metal beneath the seat. No time for finesse. He yanked hard, heard her cry out in pain, and suddenly she was moving, sliding across the collapsed console toward him. The car shifted. The groan of metal on rock filled the world. The Mercedes tilted forward, the front end dipping toward the ravine. Jack threw himself backward through the window. Sarah clutched against his chest. as the entire wreckage began its final descent. They hit the mud together, rolling, Jack's arms wrapped around her head to protect it. The sound of the Mercedes going over the edge was like the world ending, the crash of metal on stone, the splash as it hit the rising water below, the echo bouncing off the canyon walls. And then silence. Just the rain. Just their breathing. Jack lay there, Sarah's weight on his chest, both of them shaking. He could feel her heart hammering against his ribs, could smell the expensive perfume that still clung to her despite everything, could feel the way she gripped his shirt like a lifeline. "You're okay," he whispered. "You're alive." Sarah pushed herself up on trembling arms, straddling him there in the mud, her hair hanging in wet curtains around her face. She stared down at him with an expression Jack couldn't read. Shock, maybe, or disbelief. That's when the headlights appeared around the curve. Multiple vehicles. Someone must have seen the slide, called it in. Soon there would be police, ambulances, questions. But for this moment, it was just the two of them in the rain, breathing, alive. Sarah opened her mouth. Jack waited for the words he'd heard in the movies, the tearful gratitude, the recognition that he'd just saved her life. Instead, she said, "Who are you?" "Jack Thornton. I work construction. I was driving home." She looked at him, really looked, taking in the work boots, the flannel, the concrete dust still visible on his jeans where the rain hadn't reached. Her eyes moved to his truck, ancient and rusting, so different from her Mercedes now resting at the bottom of the ravine. "You saved me." Her voice was flat, processing. "Yeah." "Why?" The question hit him like a physical blow. "Why?" "Because you needed help, because I couldn't just—" "No." She cut him off, and there was something in her voice now, something that made Jack's stomach drop. "Why would someone like you risk everything for me?" The words hung between them, sharp as the glass still glittering in the mud. Someone like you. Not gratitude, not relief, but something else entirely. Surprise, maybe even suspicion, that someone from his world would dare enter hers, even to save a life. Jack's hands, still resting on her waist to steady her, went numb. The rain suddenly felt colder. The approaching sirens sounded distant, unreal. "I don't—" He struggled for words. "I don't understand what you're asking." Sarah's expression shifted, and for a moment Jack saw something that might have been shame flicker across her features. But before she could respond, the first police cruiser skidded to a stop beside them, lights painting them both in alternating red and blue. "Everyone stay where you are," the officer's voice cut through the storm. "Is anyone hurt?" Jack helped Sarah stand, or tried to. Her ankle gave out and she stumbled against him. He caught her automatically, his arm around her waist, and felt her stiffen at the contact. "She needs medical attention," Jack called out. "Possible head injury, definitely her ankle, maybe her back." "Sir, step away from the victim, please." Victim. The word created distance where none had existed seconds before. Jack released Sarah, stepping back as paramedics rushed forward with a stretcher and blankets. Someone wrapped one around Sarah's shoulders. Someone else was trying to guide Jack toward an ambulance. "I'm fine," he said automatically. "I need to get home. My daughter—" "Sir, your hands are bleeding pretty badly. We need to check you out." Jack looked down and, for the first time, really saw the damage. His knuckles were torn open, probably needed stitches. His palms were lacerated from the glass. Blood dripped steadily onto the pavement, washing away in pink swirls. But all he could think about was Emma, home alone, waiting. "Really, I need to—" "Jack!" Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. She was on the stretcher now, paramedics checking her vitals, but her eyes were locked on his. "Stay, please, we need to talk." The lead paramedic shook his head. "Ma'am, we need to get you to the hospital. You've suffered significant trauma." "I know." Sarah never broke eye contact with Jack. "But not yet, not until—" Another groan from the hillside, louder this time. Everyone froze. The officer's radio crackled with urgent voices. "Everyone back to the vehicles! Now! The whole slope is going!" Chaos erupted. Paramedics grabbed the stretcher. Officers started herding people toward their cars. Someone grabbed Jack's arm, pulling him toward safety. He resisted, still looking at Sarah being loaded into the ambulance. Their eyes met one more time across the confusion and rain, and he saw her mouth move, forming words he couldn't hear over the noise. Then the hillside gave way. It wasn't like the Boulder. This was the whole mountain deciding to relocate, a wall of mud and rock and water that swept down over the road like God's own hand. Jack felt himself lifted, thrown, tumbling through space and debris. His last coherent thought was of Emma. Then darkness. Jack woke to the steady beep of hospital monitors and the chemical smell of disinfectant. His head felt like it had been split open and inexpertly glued back together. Every muscle screamed. His mouth tasted of copper and dirt. "Dad!" Emma's voice pulled him fully conscious. She was there, in a chair beside the bed, her face pale and streaked with tears. Her auburn hair, so like her mother's, was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wore her favorite astronomy sweater, the one with the constellation patterns. "Hey, kiddo." Jack's voice came out as a croak. "Sorry I'm late." She laughed, a sound halfway between relief and hysteria, and grabbed his hand. "You've been unconscious for 6 hours. The hospital called Mrs. Chen from next door. She stayed with me until the police came and brought me here. Dad, they said you were in a mudslide. They said you saved someone's life first. They said, I'm okay." Jack squeezed her hand even though the movement sent pain shooting up his arm. Just some bumps and bruises. "The doctor said you have a concussion, 3 cracked ribs, and they had to put 27 stitches in your hands." Emma's voice cracked. "Dad, you could have died." "But I didn't." Jack tried to sit up, failed, settled for turning his head to look at her properly. "How'd you get your medicine?" "Mrs. Chen went to the pharmacy." "Dad, seriously? You're worried about my prescription right now?" "Always worried about you, Em. It's my job." A knock at the door interrupted them. A woman in a business suit entered, expensive cut, designer heels, the kind of person who looked like she'd never been in a hospital room that wasn't private. She carried a tablet and had the practiced smile of someone who dealt with PR crises for a living. "Mr. Thornton? I'm Linda Martinez, Director of Communications for Chen Enterprises. I wanted to speak with you about tonight's incident." Jack's still foggy brain struggled to connect the dots. "Chen? Like Sarah Chen? Ms. Chen is our CEO, yes. She's recovering well thanks to your heroic actions. We'd like to discuss—" "Is she okay?" Jack interrupted. "Her ankle, her head. Did they check her spine?" Linda's professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing surprise. Yes, she's fine. Remarkably so. Minor concussion, sprained ankle, some bruising. The doctors say she's incredibly fortunate." "Can I see her?" "Dad," Emma cut in, "you can barely sit up." "Mr. Thornton, that's actually why I'm here." Linda's smile returned, sharper now. "Ms. Chen is eager to thank you properly. Chen Enterprises would like to offer you a token of our appreciation. We were thinking a monetary reward, perhaps." "I don't want money." The words came out harder than Jack intended. Linda blinked. "I'm sorry?" "I don't want a reward. I just want to know she's okay, that's all." Linda exchanged a glance with someone in the hallway, probably a lawyer, Jack figured. Everything about this woman screamed corporate machinery, the kind that ground up guys like him for sport. "Mr. Thornton, I understand you may feel uncomfortable accepting compensation, but Chen Enterprises insists. Perhaps we could discuss a college fund for your daughter." "Emma, is it?" Jack's jaw tightened. They'd done their homework fast, knew his name, his daughter's name, probably his bank account balance and credit score too. "Thank you, but no, I don't need anything from Chen Enterprises." "Dad," Emma whispered, "maybe you should—" "No, Em." Jack kept his eyes on Linda. "Tell Ms. Chen I hope she feels better. That's all." Linda's smile finally dropped entirely. "Mr. Thornton, you don't understand. Ms. Chen's vehicle was carrying proprietary documents related to a multi-billion-dollar merger. If those documents had fallen into the wrong hands, or if Ms. Chen herself had been seriously injured, the consequences would have been catastrophic. You didn't just save a life tonight, you saved an empire. We need to compensate you appropriately." "I saved a person," Jack said quietly. "That's all. Just a person who needed help." For a long moment, Linda just stared at him. Then she nodded slowly, pulling a business card from her pocket and setting it on the bedside table. "If you change your mind, Mr. Thornton, the offer stands. She left, heels clicking on the linoleum. Emma waited until the door closed before exploding. Dad, do you have any idea what she was offering? That could have been my entire college fund. That could have been… Jack caught her hand again. Money from them. It wouldn't feel right. Why not? You earned it. How could he explain it to his 12-year-old daughter? How could he tell her that Sarah Chen's question, "Why would someone like you risk everything for me?" had revealed a chasm between their worlds that no amount of money could bridge? That accepting a reward would just confirm what Sarah had implied. That people like Jack only did things for people like her when there was something in it for them. Some things you do because they're right, he said finally, not because there's a reward. Emma slumped back in her chair, and Jack could see her mother in the set of her jaw, the disappointment mixed with reluctant understanding. Mary would have been proud of both of them, he thought. Mary, who'd worked 3 jobs while fighting cancer just so they wouldn't lose the house. Mary, who'd taught Emma that integrity mattered more than comfort. Can I at least meet her? Emma asked after a moment. The woman you saved? I want to see who's important enough that my dad nearly died for her. Jack opened his mouth to respond, but another knock interrupted. This time, a nurse poked her head in. Mr. Thornton, you have another visitor? A Ms. Chen? Jack's heart rate spiked. The monitor beside him helpfully announced it with increased beeping. Emma's eyes went wide. Should I leave? His daughter asked. No, stay. Jack needed the anchor. Whatever she has to say, you can hear it. The nurse nodded and stepped aside. Sarah Chen entered in a wheelchair, her right ankle wrapped and elevated, a bandage on her temple, but otherwise looking remarkably composed. She'd changed from the destroyed silk blouse into hospital scrubs, but somehow still managed to look like she owned the building. Her eyes found Jack's immediately, and something complex flickered across her face, something Jack couldn't quite read. Mr. Thornton, Emma. Sarah nodded to each of them. To the nurse, could you give us a moment, please? The nurse hesitated, glancing at Jack. He nodded and she left, closing the door behind her. Silence stretched between them. Emma's hand tightened around Jack's. I hear you refused Linda's offer, Sarah said finally. I don't want your money. So she told me. Sarah wheeled herself closer and Jack noticed her hands were shaking slightly. She also told me what you said. That you just saved a person, not an empire, just a person. Jack didn't respond. What was there to say? I need to apologize. The words came out rushed, like she'd been rehearsing them. What I said on that road, what I asked you, it was unconscionable. I was in shock, yes, but that's no excuse. You risked your life for mine, and I responded with classist garbage that I don't even believe. That's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. Emma's grip loosened slightly. Jack felt his own tension ease, but only fractionally. Why did you say it then? The question came out quieter than he intended. Sarah looked down at her hands, and for the first time since entering the room, she looked vulnerable, young. Because I was terrified. Not of dying. I'd already accepted that in the car. I was terrified that someone had saved me without wanting anything in return. In my world, Mr. Thornton, everything has a price. Every kindness has an angle. Every gesture demands reciprocation. And here you were, bleeding in the mud, asking nothing, expecting nothing, and I couldn't process it. So you assumed I must be beneath you, Jack said. Not angry, just stating fact. No, I assumed I must be beneath you. Sarah's eyes lifted, and they were bright with unshed tears. Someone with your courage, your selflessness, I couldn't understand why you'd waste it on me. Someone who spends her days in boardrooms, playing corporate chess with people's livelihoods. Someone who was probably going to fire 300 people after that merger went through. Someone who hadn't done a genuinely good thing in I don't even know how long. The confession hung in the air. Emma shifted uncomfortably. You don't know me, Sarah continued, her voice steadier now. And I don't know you, but I want to. Not as CEO of Chen Enterprises to the man who saved her life. Not as rich woman to working class hero, just as Sarah to Jack. As two people who survived something terrible together. Jack studied her face, looking for the lie, the angle, the price tag. He found none of those things. Instead, he saw genuine remorse, genuine hope, and something else, something that looked like loneliness. Okay, he said finally. Okay? Let's have coffee or something, when we can both walk without help. Talk like normal people. Sarah's smile transformed her face. I'd like that. I'd really like that. She wheeled toward the door, paused, looked back. For what it's worth, Mr. Thornton, Jack, you were wrong about one thing. What's that? You said you just saved a person, but you saved the right person, the one who needed saving in more ways than she knew. She left before Jack could respond. Emma stared at the closed door, then at her father, then back at the door. Dad? Yeah, kiddo? I think she likes you. Jack laughed, then groaned as his ribs protested. Don't be ridiculous. But even as he said it, even as Emma rolled her eyes and called him oblivious, Jack couldn't stop thinking about Sarah's eyes, about the weight of her confession, about the way she'd looked at him like he was something more than just a construction worker in muddy boots. Outside, the storm was finally breaking. The rain had softened to a drizzle, and through the hospital window, Jack could see the first hints of stars beginning to appear in the clearing sky. His hands throbbed. His head ached. His whole body felt like it had been used as a punching bag. But somewhere in his chest, in a place that had been quiet since Mary died, something sparked to life. It felt like hope. It felt like a beginning. Fan Sao. Louis Traloy Trong Muk Tin Yan Kom Nye Sang document edit. The coffee never happened. 3 days after the accident, Jack was back at work because the Bills didn't care about cracked ribs or concussions. He tried calling the number on Linda Martinez's business card, not for money, just to arrange that coffee with Sarah, but got routed through 4 different assistants before being told Ms. Chen's schedule was completely booked for the foreseeable future. The message was clear. Whatever moment they'd shared in that hospital room had been just that, a moment. Sarah Chen had returned to her world of mergers and boardrooms, and Jack Thornton had returned to his world of concrete and calloused hands. You're favoring your left side, Miguel observed on the construction site. Jack's foreman was a barrel-chested man with gray threading through his black hair and eyes that missed nothing. Those ribs still bothering you? I'm fine, Jack grunted, lifting another bag of cement mix. The movement sent pain lancing through his torso, but he'd become expert at hiding it. Emma's prescription refill was due in 2 weeks, and he couldn't afford to lose hours. Fine like you were fine when you came in with a fever last month and passed out by the mixer? Miguel crossed his arms. Jack, I saw the news. You're some kind of hero now. Saved that rich lady from her car. They showed your picture and everything. Jack's jaw tightened. The local news had indeed run the story, complete with footage from someone's dash cam showing the Boulder strike and Jack's rescue. They'd called him a good Samaritan and a selfless hero. They'd interviewed neighbors who said he was always helping people and just that kind of guy. What they hadn't shown was Sarah's question. Why would someone like you risk everything for me? That part existed only in Jack's memory, sharp as broken glass. That was last week, Jack said. Old news now. Maybe to you. Miguel pulled out his phone, scrolled, held it up. Chen Enterprises just announced their merger went through. $3.7 billion. Lady you saved is going to be even richer than she was. Jack glanced at the article. There was Sarah's official portrait, perfectly styled hair, power suit, the kind of smile that probably cost as much as his truck. She looked untouchable, unreal. Nothing like the terrified woman in the rain or the vulnerable one in the hospital room. Good for her, he said flatly. Says here the stock price jumped 20% when she gave her first interview after the accident. Investors were spooked when she went missing, thought maybe she was dead or something. Miguel kept reading. She thanked her rescuer, that's you, said you were a reminder that heroes come from unexpected places. That's nice, right? Public recognition? Heroes come from unexpected places. The phrase sounded hollow, like something written by a PR team. Probably was. Miguel, I got work to do. His foreman studied him for a long moment, then sighed. Suit yourself, but Jack, take it easy today. You're no good to anyone if you collapse. The morning crawled by. Jack poured footings, mixed concrete, tried to lose himself in the familiar rhythm of physical labor. but his mind kept drifting back to the hospital, to Sarah's confession, to the promise of coffee and conversation that had evaporated like morning mist. At lunch, sitting alone in his truck because the other guy's chatter grated on his nerves, Jack's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Probably a spam call about his car's extended warranty or some credit card offer, but something made him swipe to accept. Thornton? A woman's voice, crisp and professional. This is Rebecca Park, executive assistant to Sarah Chen. Ms. Chen would like to invite you to dinner tonight at Celestine, 7 o'clock. A car will pick you up at 6:30. Jack sat up so fast his ribs screamed protest. What? I thought your office said she was booked. Ms. Chen's schedule has been rearranged. Will you be available? Celestine. Even Jack knew that name, the kind of restaurant where people wore suits that cost more than his monthly rent, where the menu probably didn't list prices because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. I don't think that's a good idea, Jack heard himself say. I wouldn't fit in there. Ms. Chen specifically requested somewhere nice. She wants to thank you properly. There it was again. Thank you. As if this was still about gratitude, about obligation, about the debt Sarah felt she owed, not about two people wanting to know each other. Tell Ms. Chen thanks, but I can't make it. Jack's finger hovered over the end call button. Mr. Thornton, wait. Please. Rebecca's professional veneer cracked slightly. Between you and me, she's been impossible all week, distracted, snapping at people, staring out windows. Then this morning she came in and moved mountains to clear tonight. I've worked for her 4 years and I've never seen her do that for anyone. So maybe just consider it? Jack closed his eyes, saw Sarah in her wheelchair, hands shaking, confessing her loneliness. Saw the hope in her expression when he'd agreed to coffee. Not Celestine, he said. There's a diner on 5th and Morrison. Mel's place. 6:30. Tell her to come herself, no car service. Silence on the other end. Then, I'll relay the message. The call ended. Jack sat there, heart hammering, wondering what the hell he'd just done. A woman like Sarah Chen didn't go to places like Mel's. She probably hadn't been inside a diner in her entire life. His phone buzzed again immediately. A text from the same number. She says yes. See you tonight. Jack stared at the words until his screen went dark. The afternoon shift was torture. Every minute dragged. Jack caught himself checking his watch repeatedly, mentally calculating how long he'd need to shower, whether he had any clothes that weren't stained with paint or concrete dust, whether Emma would be okay with Mrs. Chen from next door for a few hours. You got a date or something? One of the younger workers, Tommy, asked when he caught Jack checking his phone for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. No, maybe. None of your business. Tommy grinned. It's that rich lady, isn't it? The one from the news? Drop it, Tommy. Man, if I saved a billionaire's life, I'd be cashing in. New truck, new house, maybe a boat? I said drop it. Jack's voice came out harder than intended. The site went quiet. Even Miguel looked up from his paperwork. Tommy raised his hands. Okay. Touchy subject. Got it. Jack forced himself to focus on the work, but the damage was done. Everyone was looking at him differently now, like he was either an idiot for not taking Chen Enterprises' money, or a saint, or maybe both. He hated it. Hated being the center of attention, hated the speculation, hated how a single moment of doing the right thing had somehow become this complicated. At 4 o'clock, Miguel pulled him aside. Go home. Shift doesn't end until 5. I know what time shift ends. I'm telling you to go home. Shower, change, do whatever you need to do. Miguel's expression softened. And Jack? Whether this is a date or just dinner, take the chance. Life's too short to let fear make your decisions. Jack wanted to argue, but Miguel was right. About all of it. He clocked out, drove home, and found Emma doing homework at the kitchen table. She looked up when he entered, eyebrows rising. You're home early. Something wrong? I've got dinner plans. Need you to stay with Mrs. Chen for a few hours. Emma's eyes went wide. Dinner plans? With who? Jack busied himself pulling clothes from his closet. Just someone. Dad, is it her, the CEO lady? He turned to find his daughter standing in the doorway, arms crossed, looking far too knowing for 12 years old. Her name's Sarah. And yes. Oh my God. Emma's face split into a grin. You have a date with a billionaire. It's not a date, it's just dinner. She wants to talk. Huh. And you're pulling out your good shirt, the one you wore to Mom's funeral, because it's just talking? Jack looked down at the blue button-down in his hands. Emma was right. It was the only shirt he owned without stains or fraying cuffs, the one he saved for parent-teacher conferences and the rare job interview. It's complicated, Em. Because she's rich and you're not? Because we're from different worlds. Emma moved closer, took the shirt from his hands, laid it carefully on the bed. Mom used to say that everyone bleeds the same color. Rich, poor, doesn't matter. What matters is what's in here. She tapped his chest, right over his heart. And you've got the best heart of anyone I know. Jack's throat tightened. When'd you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't pay attention. But she was smiling. Go shower. You smell like cement. And Dad? Don't sell yourself short, okay? You saved her life. That makes you pretty extraordinary. 45 minutes later, Jack stood outside Mel's place, feeling overdressed in his funeral shirt and least-worn jeans. The diner was a local institution, red vinyl booths, checkered floor, a jukebox in the corner that only played songs from the 70s. Mel himself, a rotund man with a white beard, waved from behind the counter. Jackie, haven't seen you in a while. Heard you're some kind of hero now. Not a hero, Mel. Just did what anyone would do. That's not what the TV says, Mel winked. Your usual table? Before Jack could answer, a sleek black sedan pulled up to the curb. Not the limousine or town car he'd expected, but still clearly expensive. The driver got out, opened the rear door, and Sarah Chen emerged. Jack's breath caught. She wasn't wearing a power suit or designer dress. Instead, she had on dark jeans, a simple cream-colored sweater, and flats. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders, and she wore minimal makeup. She looked younger, more approachable, almost nervous. Their eyes met across the sidewalk. Sarah's lips curved into a tentative smile. You came, Jack said. You doubted I would? Little bit, yeah. Sarah laughed, a real laugh, not the polished sound he'd heard in her interview clips. I deserve that. Can we start over? Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm terrible at taking advice from doctors, worse at following up on promises, but I'm trying to be better. Jack felt his own smile forming. Jack, I'm pretty good at concrete, mediocre at cooking, and apparently make questionable restaurant choices for dinner. This is perfect. Sarah looked at the diner, and something in her expression shifted, wistfulness maybe, or nostalgia. I used to go to a place like this with my grandfather, before Chen Enterprises got so big, before everything got complicated. Want to go inside, or should we just stand on the sidewalk all night? Inside, definitely. I'm starving. Hospital food is terrible, and the private chef my board insisted I hire makes everything with foam and microgreens. Mel's eyes practically bugged out when they entered together. Jack could already hear the gossip mill firing up. By tomorrow, the whole neighborhood would know he'd had dinner with Sarah Chen. But looking at Sarah's face, seeing her genuine smile as she took in the retro decor, Jack found he didn't care. They slid into a corner booth away from the window. Mel brought menus and water, his professional veneer slipping only slightly when he gawked at Sarah. Evening, miss. Welcome to Mel's. Can I start you folks with some coffee? Please, Sarah said. Black, no sugar. Same, Jack added. Mel hustled away, probably to text his wife about the billionaire CEO in his diner. Sarah picked up the laminated menu, studying it with the same intensity she probably gave quarterly reports. The meatloaf's good, Jack offered. Mel's specialty. Or the chicken fried steak if you're really hungry. When's the last time you were here? 2 weeks ago. Emma and I come every month when I get paid. It's our tradition. Sarah set down the menu. Emma seems like an amazing kid. She is. Smarter than me by a mile. Wants to be an astrophysicist, reads those thick astronomy books like they're comic books. Must be hard raising her alone. Her mom made it look easy. I'm just trying not to screw it up too badly. Jack fiddled with his napkin. What about you? Family? Parents died when I was 23. Car accident. My grandfather started Chen Enterprises, built it from nothing. When he got sick, it fell to me. I was 25, barely out of business school, suddenly running a multi-million-dollar company. Sarah's fingers traced patterns on the table. No siblings, no spouse, just me and 1,000 employees depending on me not to fail. That's a lot of weight. Yeah, it is. She looked up, met his eyes. That night on the mountain, in the car, I wasn't just afraid of dying. I was afraid of what would happen to everyone else if I did. The merger, the employees, the investors. It's like I'm not even a person anymore. Just a linchpin holding everything together. Mel returned with coffee and took their orders. Meatloaf for Jack, the chicken fried steak for Sarah, which made Jack smile. They fell into silence as Mel left, both sipping their coffee. I Googled you, Sarah admitted. After the hospital. Hope that's not creepy. Find anything interesting? Not much. No social media. A few mentions in local news. You organized a fundraiser for a coworker whose house burned down. Coached Emma's Science Bowl team to regionals. Volunteer at the community center teaching basic carpentry. Sarah tilted her head. You're kind of disgustingly decent, you know that? Jack felt heat creep up his neck. I just do what needs doing. That's exactly what I mean. Most people say that and don't follow through. You actually mean it. She leaned forward. Want to know what scared me most about you that night? What? That you were real. That people like you actually exist, because if they do, it means I've spent 15 years becoming something I don't recognize. Playing corporate games, making decisions based on spreadsheets instead of people, forgetting that every number represents someone's life. Her voice dropped. You reminded me what I'd lost, what I'd traded away for success. Jack didn't know what to say to that. The weight of her confession pressed against his chest, mixing with his own uncertainties. I'm not some paragon, he finally said. I get angry. I make mistakes. Last month I yelled at Emma for spending her birthday money on a book instead of saving it because I was stressed about bills. I felt like shit for days. But you apologized, right? Of course. See? Decent. Sarah smiled, but it was sad around the edges. I fired a department head last year for missing quarterly projections. Found out later his daughter had leukemia. He was distracted, understandably. I didn't even ask why his performance had slipped. Just cut him loose. Did you make it right? I tried. Offered him his job back, paid for his daughter's treatment, but the look in his eyes when he came back, like he couldn't trust me anymore. Like he was just waiting for the next axe to fall. She stared into her coffee. Money can't fix everything, turns out. Their food arrived, interrupting the heavy moment. Sarah looked at her plate. Chicken fried steak swimming in gravy, mashed potatoes, green beans that had definitely come from a can, and laughed. I haven't eaten anything like this in years. Too pedestrian for a CEO? Too real for the person I've been pretending to be. She picked up her fork, cut into the steak, took a bite. Her eyes closed. Oh my God, this is amazing. Jack watched her eat with genuine pleasure. No pretense, no thought to appearance or propriety. This was the Sarah from the hospital room, he realized. The one without armor. The one who was maybe, possibly, someone he could actually know. Can I ask you something? Jack said. Why'd you agree to dinner at a place like this instead of Celestine? Sarah swallowed, considered. Honestly, because Celestine would have been safe. I could have hidden behind expensive wine and formal service and kept you at a distance. This, she gestured around the diner. This is vulnerable. No walls, just us and chicken fried steak. You wanted vulnerable? I wanted real. She met his gaze. After everything, don't you think we've earned real? They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the kind that felt natural rather than awkward. Around them, the diner hummed with its usual evening crowd. Shift workers grabbing dinner, a few teenagers in the corner booth, an elderly couple who'd probably been coming here for decades. What do you want, Sarah? Jack asked eventually. From all this, from life, what do you actually want? She set down her fork, really thinking about it. A year ago, I would have said I wanted Chen Enterprises to break into the Fortune 500. 6 months ago, I would have said I wanted the merger to succeed. Last week, I would have said I wanted to survive that night on the mountain. She paused. Now? I don't know. Maybe I want to figure out who Sarah Chen is when she's not being CEO Sarah Chen. Maybe I want to remember what it feels like to do something because it matters, not because it profits. That's a start? What about you? What does Jack Thornton want? Emma to get into a good college, to not worry about money every single day, to maybe, someday, find someone who... He stopped, suddenly aware of what he'd almost said. Someone who what? Sarah's voice was gentle. Jack met her eyes. Someone who sees me. Not the hero from the news, not a project or a charity case. Just me. I see you, Sarah said quietly. Guy who drinks his coffee black and orders the meatloaf and loves his daughter enough to work himself to exhaustion. Guy who risks everything for strangers and won't take a reward because it feels wrong. Guy who's sitting here with me even though it probably scares the hell out of him. Terrifies me, Jack admitted. You terrify me. Good. You terrify me too. They stared at each other across the table, and something shifted in the air between them. Recognition, maybe. Or possibility. Jack felt it in his chest, warm and uncertain and completely inappropriate given they'd barely known each other a week, given the impossible distance between their lives. Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, sighed. My board chair, probably having a panic attack that I'm not answering emails. You should get it. I should ignore it. But even as she said it, the phone buzzed again. And again. Sarah's jaw tightened. I'm sorry. This merger created a lot of nervous energy. Everyone wants reassurance that I'm still focused, still committed. Are you? The question hung between them. Sarah looked at her phone, then at Jack, then back at the phone. I don't know, she whispered, and that's terrifying too. She answered the call, stepping outside for privacy. Through the window, Jack watched her pace, her free hand gesturing as she talked. The easy woman from moments ago disappeared, replaced by CEO Sarah, sharp, commanding, untouchable. Mel refilled Jack's coffee. She seems nice. Not what I expected from a billionaire. She's complicated. The good ones usually are, Mel nodded toward the window. But I see how she looks at you, Jackie. That's not complicated. That's simple as arithmetic. Before Jack could respond, Sarah came back inside. But her expression had changed, closed off, professional. I'm so sorry, she said, already reaching for her purse. There's a situation with the Shanghai office. Conference call in 20 minutes. I have to... Go. I understand. No, this was... I shouldn't have turned my phone off. Should have known they'd need me. She threw cash on the table. Way too much for the meal. Can we do this again? Soon? Sure. Jack tried to keep the disappointment from his voice. Yeah, of course. Sarah hesitated, like she wanted to say something else. Then she leaned down, quickly pressed her lips to his cheek, and fled. Jack sat there, skin tingling where she'd kissed him, watching her sedan pull away. The warmth from moments ago had evaporated, replaced by the cold reality of their situations. She was a CEO with a billion-dollar empire demanding her attention. He was a construction worker who had to be up at 5 a.m. Whatever this was, it couldn't work. The universe wouldn't allow it. But when Jack touched his cheek, he could still feel the ghost of her lips, still smell her perfume. And despite everything rational, despite all the reasons this was impossible, hope stubbornly refused to die. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I meant what I said. I see you. Sarah. Then another. And I'm not giving up on this. On us. Whatever this is. Jack stared at the messages, something fierce and bright blooming in his chest. He typed back, Me neither. The response came immediately. Good. Because you're stuck with me now, Jack Thornton. Fair warning. He smiled, shaking his head. Mel was right. The good ones were always complicated. The next few days fell into a strange pattern. Sarah would text at odd hours. 3 a.m. when she couldn't sleep before a board meeting, lunchtime when she had a spare moment, late evening after conference calls with Asia. Nothing profound, just fragments of her day. The VP of Operations microwaved fish in the break room. Thought you should know the depths of corporate suffering. Or, remembered something my grandfather used to say, money measures success, but character measures worth. Think he'd like you. Jack would respond between work breaks, usually with something simple. Emma aced her physics test. She's insufferable when she's right. Or, Miguel says if I check my phone one more time, I'm going to fall in a foundation trench. It was nothing. It was everything. But they couldn't seem to coordinate schedules for another dinner. Sarah had the merger integration. Jack had double shifts to cover Emma's upcoming school trip. Every time they made plans, something intervened. A crisis at Chen Enterprises, an emergency at the construction site, Emma getting sick with the flu. 2 weeks after their dinner at Mel's, Jack was up on scaffolding when his phone rang. Sarah's name on the screen. "Hang on," he told her, climbing down carefully. His ribs had finally healed enough that the movement didn't make him wince. "Okay. What's up? What are you doing Saturday?" "Emma's got her science bowl competition. Why?" Silence. Then, "Could I come? To watch?" Jack nearly dropped his phone. "You want to come to a middle school science bowl?" "I want to meet the girl who made you who you are, and maybe watch brilliant kids be brilliant. It's been a while since I've seen people compete for something other than profit margins." "Sarah, it's at a public school cafeteria. There'll be bad coffee and folding chairs and really intense parents." "Sounds perfect. Text me the address?" Before Jack could argue, she'd hung up. Miguel was grinning at him when he turned around. "Let me guess. Dinner plans?" "Science bowl." "Even better. You're introducing her to Emma. That's serious, man." "It's not. We're not." Jack struggled for words. "It's complicated." Yeah, keep telling yourself that." Saturday arrived cold and clear. Jack got to Lincoln Middle School early, helped Emma and her team set up in their designated area. She was vibrating with nervous energy, color high in her cheeks. "You okay, kiddo?" "There's a recruiter here from the state competition. Ms. Peterson says if we place top 3, we might get invited." Emma adjusted her team jersey, a terrible purple thing with Lincoln Lightning emblazoned across the front. "No pressure or anything." "You'll be great, you always are." "Is she coming?" Emma tried for casual and missed by a mile. "Sarah?" "Said she might." "Dad, don't be weird when she gets here." "I'm not weird. You're totally weird. You get this look when you talk about her, like you can't decide if you're happy or terrified." "Both. Definitely both." Emma laughed, then got called away by her teammates. Jack found a seat in the parent section surrounded by people he vaguely recognized from school functions. They nodded to him, some whispering, probably about the news coverage that had finally died down. 10 minutes before the competition started, Sarah arrived. She'd clearly tried to dress down, jeans again, a simple sweater, but everything about her screamed quality. The way she moved, the confidence in her posture, the expensive watch that probably cost more than Jack's truck. Every parent in the cafeteria turned to stare. Sarah found Jack, smiled, navigated the folding chairs to reach him. "Made it. Sorry, traffic was... Is everyone staring at us?" "You're a celebrity. Kind of comes with the territory." "Right. The merger. Forgot about that for a whole 10 minutes. She settled into the chair beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Which one's Emma?" Jack pointed to his daughter, currently deep in consultation with her teammates. "Purple jersey, ponytail." "She looks like you. Same stubborn chin." She'd argue that's a strategic chin, not stubborn. Sarah laughed and several more heads turned. She noticed, her smile faltering. "Should I have stayed away? I don't want to make this harder for you or Emma." "You're here now. Might as well stay." Jack kept his voice light, but he appreciated the consideration. "Besides, Emma would kill me if you left." The competition began, rounds of rapid-fire questions covering everything from physics to literature to world history. Emma's team was sharp, fast on the buzzer, working together with the kind of synchronization that came from months of practice. Jack had seen them compete before, but watching with Sarah beside him added a new dimension. He found himself seeing it through her eyes, the pure joy of learning, the thrill of knowledge for its own sake. No profit motive or corporate strategy, just kids being brilliant because they could be. "They're amazing," Sarah whispered during a break between rounds. "Emma's incredible. She gets it from her mom. Mary was the smart one in our family." Sarah's hand found his, squeezed briefly. I think she gets it from both of you. Intelligence comes in different forms. Lincoln Lightning made it to the final round against Jefferson Prep, a school known for its academic excellence and wealthy parent donors. The tension in the cafeteria was palpable. Emma looked nervous but focused, her hand hovering over the buzzer. The final question was about astrophysics, something about gravitational lensing and dark matter. Emma's eyes lit up. Jack could practically see the gears turning in her head. Her hand slammed the buzzer half a second before Jefferson's captain. "Lincoln?" the moderator called. Emma stood, took a breath, and delivered a perfect answer complete with supporting equations. The moderator's eyebrows rose. "That is correct. Lincoln Lightning wins." The cafeteria erupted. Emma's teammates mobbed her, screaming. Parents applauded. And Jack felt his throat tighten with pride so fierce it hurt. He felt Sarah's hand slip into his again, felt her squeeze. When he looked over, she was smiling, but her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Why are you crying?" he asked softly. "Because that was beautiful. Pure. Everything my world isn't." She wiped her eyes quickly. "And because Emma's lucky to have you, and you're lucky to have her, and I'm sitting here realizing I've never had anything that uncomplicated and good in my entire life." Jack didn't think. He just pulled her close, let her rest her head against his shoulder for a moment. Around them, parents were gathering their things, kids were celebrating, but in their small bubble, time seemed to slow. "Come meet her," Jack said. "Officially." They made their way through the crowd. Emma saw them coming and her face lit up. Not the competitive fire from the competition, but genuine excitement. "Dad, did you see? We won! State competition, here we come!" "Saw the whole thing. You were perfect." Jack pulled her into a hug, then stepped back. "Emma, this is Sarah. Sarah, my daughter Emma." "The astrophysicist in training," Sarah said, holding out her hand. "That answer about gravitational lensing was remarkable." Emma shook her hand, trying for mature and dignified. "Thanks. I've been reading a lot about dark matter. It's fascinating how something we can't see directly has such a massive impact on everything we can see. Kind of like how certain choices ripple out in ways we never expect," Sarah agreed. Then softer. "Your dad talks about you constantly. I was starting to think you might be a figment of his imagination. You're so accomplished." Emma blushed. "He probably exaggerates." "He doesn't. Trust me." Sarah glanced at Jack, something warm in her expression. "He's your biggest fan." "He's embarrassing is what he is," Emma said, but she was grinning. "But yeah, he's pretty great." One of Emma's teammates called her over. Something about the state competition paperwork. She excused herself, but not before giving Jack a very obvious thumbs up behind Sarah's back. "She's wonderful," Sarah said once Emma was out of earshot. "You should be incredibly proud. Every single day." They stood there amid the chaos of celebrating students and chattering parents, close enough that Jack could smell Sarah's perfume, could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "Jack, Sarah started, then stopped. Tried again. "This thing between us. I know it's complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons it won't work, but I can't stop thinking about you, about us, about the possibility of—" Jack's phone rang. Emma's school. His stomach dropped. "Hold that thought," he answered. "Hello? Mr. Thornton, this is Principal Davies. Nothing to worry about, but we've had a situation. A reporter from Channel 7 just tried to interview Emma about you and Ms. Chen. We've removed them from campus, but I wanted to let you know." Jack's blood went cold. He looked at Sarah, who'd clearly heard enough to understand. "Thank you for handling it. We're leaving now." He hung up, then to Sarah. "We need to go. Press found out you're here." Sarah's expression shifted to something hard and professional. "I'll handle it." "No, this is my daughter. I'll handle it. Jack, this is my fault. The merger, the publicity, it's nobody's fault. But Emma doesn't need to be in the middle of it." He spotted his daughter across the cafeteria, still oblivious, laughing with her teammates. "Can you give us some space? Just for a bit?" Sarah flinched like he'd struck her. "Of course. I understand." "Sarah? No, you're right. Your priority is Emma, as it should be." She was already backing away, rebuilding those walls he'd watched come down. "I'll have my security team make sure the press leaves you alone." "That's not what I—" But she was gone, moving through the crowd with practiced efficiency, pulling out her phone to make calls. Jack watched her go, feeling like he'd just made a terrible mistake but not knowing how to fix it. Emma appeared at his elbow. "Where'd Sarah go?" "She had to leave. Work stuff." "Dad, I'm 12, not stupid. What happened?" Jack sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Reporters showed up. I asked her to give us space." "And she thought you were pushing her away." "What? No, I was protecting you." Emma gave him a look that was far too knowing. "Did you explain that to her? Or did you just tell her to leave?" Jack replayed the conversation, winced. "I might have been unclear." "You're an idiot." "Language, Em." "You're a well-meaning idiot," she amended. "But still an idiot. She likes you, Dad. Like, really likes you. And you basically just told her she's a problem." "I didn't." But he had. Hadn't he? In his rush to protect Emma, he'd made Sarah feel like she was the danger, the complication to be managed. Damn it. Super language, Dad. But Emma was already pushing him toward the exit. "Go. Fix it. I'll get a ride home with Miss Peterson." "You sure?" "Positive." "And Dad, don't screw this up. She's good for you." Jack kissed the top of her head and ran. He found Sarah outside, standing by her car, phone pressed to her ear. When she saw him, she held up a finger. "Wait." Jack waited, heart hammering, while she finished her call. "Security's pulling the press credentials of anyone who approaches your family," she said when she hung up. "It won't happen again." "Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "You were protecting your daughter. I get it. I'd do the same." "No, listen, I panicked. The idea of Emma being hounded by reporters, of her life being disrupted because of my choices, I just reacted." Jack moved closer. "But I didn't mean to make you feel like you were the problem. You're not the problem." "Aren't I?" Sarah's smile was sad. "My world comes with cameras and scrutiny and people who think your private life is public property. That's not fair to you or Emma. Life's not fair, we deal with it." "But should you have to?" She turned away, staring at nothing. "Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe that night on the mountain, maybe we should have just stayed strangers." "Do you believe that?" Silence. "Sarah, do you actually believe that?" She turned back, and the vulnerability in her expression nearly undid him. "No, but maybe I should." Jack closed the distance between them, took her hands in his. "Here's what I believe. I believe Emma needs a father who shows her that good things are worth fighting for. I believe you need someone who sees you, not your bank account or your company, and I believe we're both scared as hell, but that doesn't make this wrong. Your daughter should be your priority." "She is. She always will be. But Emma's the one who told me to come after you, said you're good for me." Jack squeezed her hands. "She's usually right about these things." "She's 12. "A very wise 12. Sarah laughed, shaky and wet. "This is insane. We barely know each other." "So we get to know each other, slowly, carefully, with lots of communication and probably some more panic attacks." Jack managed a smile. "I'm willing, if you are." "What if I screw it up? What if I hurt Emma by being in her life and then disappearing when this gets too hard?" "What if you don't? What if this is the start of something amazing?" Jack pulled her closer. "What if we stop looking for reasons it won't work and start looking for reasons it will?" Sarah studied his face, searching for something. Whatever she found must have satisfied her because she nodded. "Okay, slow and careful, with communication. And panic attacks. Don't forget the panic attacks." "Those seem inevitable." She smiled, real and warm. "Take me home?" "Where's home?" "Wherever you are, apparently." Jack kissed her then, soft and brief, a promise more than a passion. When they broke apart, Sarah was smiling. "Emma's going to be insufferable about this," Jack warned. "She's probably already planning the wedding." "I like her already." They stood there in the parking lot, holding hands, while around them the world kept spinning. Reporters might come back. Schedules might conflict. 1,000 obstacles still stood between them. But for now, for this moment, they had each other. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Taking Sarah home turned out to mean Jack's home. Because hers, a penthouse downtown that she admitted she barely spent time in, felt too impersonal for what they both needed. Emma was spending the night at her teammate's house celebrating the win, which left Jack's small two-bedroom house oddly quiet when they arrived. Sarah stood in the living room, taking in the worn couch with its carefully patched armrest, the bookshelf overflowing with Emma's astronomy texts and Jack's collection of westerns, the photos covering every available surface. Most were of Emma, gap-toothed at 6, serious at 10, laughing at her last birthday. But there were older ones too, a blonde woman with Emma's smile appearing in frames that Jack had never been able to put away. "That's Mary," Jack said softly, watching Sarah study a wedding photo. "Emma's mom. She was beautiful." Sarah touched the frame gently. "You must miss her terribly." "Every day. But it's different now. Less like drowning, more like an ache that's become part of me." Jack moved to the kitchen, suddenly needing something to do with his hands. "Coffee? Or I've got beer, some wine Emma and I use for cooking." "Jack?" Sarah followed him, caught his hand. "You're nervous." "Terrified, remember? We established that." "We also established we're doing this anyway." She smiled, squeezing his fingers. "So maybe we just sit, talk, be normal people for a while." They ended up on the couch, coffee growing cold on the table between them, as evening darkened into night. Sarah told him about growing up in her grandfather's shadow, about business school where she'd been the youngest in her class, about the terror of taking over Chen Enterprises at 25 when her grandfather's stroke left him unable to lead. "Everyone expected me to fail," she said. "The board, the investors, even some of the employees. This kid with her fancy degree, playing at being CEO. So I worked myself half to death proving them wrong. 90-hour weeks, sleeping in my office, missing holidays, birthdays, everything that wasn't directly related to profit margins and market share." "Did it work?" "I quintupled the company's value in 10 years. We expanded into 6 new markets. That merger everyone's so excited about? It makes Chen Enterprises one of the top tech conglomerates in the country." Sarah's voice was flat, reciting achievements that clearly brought her no joy. "So yeah, it worked. I proved them all wrong, and somewhere along the way I forgot why it mattered." Jack reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was intimate, familiar, like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. "What made you remember?" "You." She caught his hand, held it against her cheek. "That night on the mountain. You didn't care about Chen Enterprises or my net worth or any of it. You just saw someone who needed help. It was the first time in 15 years someone looked at me and didn't see dollar signs. I saw a person trapped in a car, scared, human." "Exactly." Sarah turned her face, pressed a kiss to his palm. "You reminded me I'm supposed to be human too." Jack's breath caught. The simple touch of her lips against his skin sent electricity through his entire body. He wanted to pull her closer, wanted to kiss her properly, wanted things he hadn't let himself want since Mary died. But he also wanted to do this right. "Sarah, I need you to understand something." He shifted to face her fully. "I'm not a project, not something you fix to feel better about yourself. If we do this, really do this, it has to be because you want me, not because you want the idea of me." "I know the difference." "Do you?" "Because I'm not some noble working-class hero. I get angry over stupid things. I'm stubborn. I watch too much football, and I'm terrible at remembering to call people back. I've got debt from Mary's cancer treatment that I'll probably be paying off until Emma graduates college. I work 60-hour weeks, and I'm always tired, and Sarah kissed him. It wasn't soft or tentative like the kiss in the parking lot. This was fierce, almost desperate, her hands fisting in his shirt as she pulled him closer. Jack froze for half a second, then melted into it, one hand cupping her face while the other found her waist. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sarah's eyes were bright. "I want you," she said firmly. "Not the idea of you, not the hero from the news, you. The man who orders meatloaf and worries about his daughter and has the worst taste in coffee. The man who sees me, really sees me, and doesn't run away." She kissed him again, softer. "So stop trying to talk me out of this." Jack laughed against her mouth. Okay, point made." They kissed again, slower this time, learning each other. Sarah tasted like coffee and possibility. Her hands were soft against his face, his neck, his shoulders. Jack felt like he was 17 again, dizzy and overwhelmed and completely lost in another person. His phone rang. They broke apart, both groaning. Jack glanced at the screen. Emma's friend's mom. I should get this. Make sure Em's okay. Of course, Jack answered, stepping into the kitchen. Hello? Mr. Thornton? Hi, this is Beth Morrison, Kaylee's mom. Everything's fine, but Emma asked me to call. Apparently there are photographers outside our house. They're asking about you and Ms. Chen. Emma's pretty upset. Ice flooded Jack's veins. Are they on your property? No, just on the street. But it's making Emma uncomfortable. I can't blame her. It's making me uncomfortable too. I'll be right there. Jack hung up, turned to find Sarah already standing, face pale. The press found her. Yeah. I'll call my security team. They can… No. Jack grabbed his keys. I need to get her. Bring her home where she's safe. Let me come with you, please. This is my fault. Jack wanted to argue, but the plea in Sarah's voice stopped him. Okay, but we do this my way. No security team, no corporate muscle, just us. They made it to the Morrison house in 15 minutes that felt like hours. Sure enough, 3 photographers with professional cameras were camped on the sidewalk, exactly where they couldn't be legally removed. They perked up when Jack's truck appeared, cameras already lifting. Stay in the truck, Jack said. I'll get Emma. Jack, please, trust me. He got out, ignored the cameras flashing, the questions being shouted. Beth Morrison opened the door before he could knock, Emma right behind her, looking furious and scared in equal measure. Dad, they've been here for an hour, asking about Sarah, about you, about whether you're dating. It's okay, kiddo, we're going home. Jack thanked Beth, apologized profusely, then guided Emma toward the truck with one arm around her shoulders. The photographers surged forward. Mr. Thornton, is it true you're in a relationship with Sarah Chen? How long has this been going on? Is she in the truck? Miss Chen, any comment? Jack felt Emma tense, saw her face flush with anger. Before she could say something that would definitely end up online, he squeezed her shoulder. No comment. Please respect my daughter's privacy. But the public has a right to know what… The public has a right to nothing where my kid is concerned. Jack's voice went hard. You want a story? Call Chen Enterprises on Monday. But right now, you're going to step back and let us leave. Something in his tone must have registered, because they actually backed up half a step. Jack got Emma into the truck, only then noticing Sarah had gotten out on the other side, was facing down the photographers with an expression that could freeze lava. Gentlemen, she said coolly, you have exactly 10 seconds to get in your vehicles and leave this neighborhood, or I make a single phone call and ensure none of your outlets get another interview, press release, or advance notice from Chen Enterprises for the next 5 years. I can also have a conversation with your editors about harassment and stalking. Miss Chen, we're on public property. 9 seconds. They left. Sarah got back in the truck and Jack just stared at her. That was terrifying, Emma offered from the back seat. That was so cool. I was going to say impressive, Jack finished. He pulled away from the curb, heading home. Thank you. I meant what I said. They don't get to harass you. Sarah turned in her seat to look at Emma. I'm so sorry. This is exactly what your dad was worried about. It's not your fault reporters are jerks. Emma's voice was steady, but Jack could see her hands shaking slightly. But Dad, is this going to keep happening? Because I can handle a lot of things, but photographers camping outside my friends' houses isn't one of them. It won't happen again, Sarah said before Jack could respond. I promise. I'll make sure of it. How? Emma challenged. You can't control the press. No, but I can control what they think is newsworthy. Sarah pulled out her phone, started typing. If Jack and I stop being mysterious, stop being a secret, there's no story. So we go public, officially, on our terms. Sarah, wait, Jack started. Too late. Just posted to my personal social media. She held up the phone. On screen was a photo she must have taken at the Science Bowl, Jack and Sarah sitting together, both smiling at something off camera. The caption read, Sometimes life puts you exactly where you need to be. Grateful for new beginnings. Jack's mouth went dry. You just told the entire world we're together. I told the world I'm grateful for you. There's a difference. Sarah met his eyes. Unless you don't want to be public? I should have asked first. God, I'm sorry. I just reacted. It's fine. And surprisingly, it was. Jack felt lighter somehow, like a weight he hadn't known he was carrying had lifted. Actually, it's perfect. Emma leaned forward between the seats. Can I see? Sarah handed back the phone. Emma studied the photo, and her face softened. You look happy, both of you. We are, Jack said, catching Sarah's eye. Complicated and terrified, but happy. Good, Emma returned the phone. Because if you're going to disrupt my entire life with your relationship drama, you better at least be happy about it. They arrived home to find Jack's phone exploding with notifications. Apparently Sarah's post had been noticed. Her publicist was calling, news outlets were requesting comment, and Jack's own Facebook account that he barely remembered having was suddenly getting friend requests from people he'd never met. Welcome to my world, Sarah said dryly as they all stared at Jack's phone. Gets easier, I promise. When? I'll let you know if I figure it out. Emma disappeared into her room to call Kaylee and probably dissect the evening's drama. Jack and Sarah collapsed onto the couch again, though the mood was different now, less romantic possibility, more shell-shocked solidarity. I handled that wrong, Sarah said after a moment. The post. I should have discussed it with you first. You were protecting Emma. I get it. Still, it was impulsive. My board's going to have opinions. The investors. She stopped herself. I'm doing it again. Making this about business instead of us. Jack pulled her close, let her rest against his chest. Can I tell you something my wife used to say? Of course. Mary had this theory about decisions. She said there are head decisions and heart decisions. Head decisions are logical, planned, safe. Heart decisions are messy and scary, and sometimes really stupid. But the heart decisions are the ones you remember on your deathbed. He pressed a kiss to Sarah's hair. Posting that photo? That was a heart decision, and I'm glad you made it. Sarah tilted her face up to look at him. You're kind of wonderful, you know that? Emma thinks I'm oblivious and stubborn. She's 12. She's legally required to think that about her parent. They sat in comfortable silence, Sarah's head on Jack's shoulder, his arm around her waist. Through Emma's closed door, they could hear her talking animatedly to Kaylee, probably recounting every detail of the photographer confrontation. She's resilient, Sarah observed. Like her dad. Like her mom. Mary was the strong one. I think you're selling yourself short. Sarah traced patterns on his chest absently. You raised that incredible girl essentially alone. Built a life for her on a construction worker's salary. Never gave up, never stopped fighting. That's not weakness, Jack. Didn't have a choice. She needed me. There's always a choice. You chose to stay, to fight, to be present. Sarah's voice went quiet. My parents were alive until I was 23, and I barely knew them. They were always working, always busy, always prioritizing the company over everything else. I swore I wouldn't be like them. Then my grandfather got sick and I became exactly like them. You're here now. That counts for something. Is it enough, though, to realize you've wasted 15 years and try to claw back some semblance of a real life? Jack thought about that, about Mary's death and the dark months after, about Emma pulling him through grief with her fierce determination that they'd survive, about the slow, painful process of building a life from ruins. It's a start, he said finally. That's all any of us get, a chance to start. Sarah lifted her head, kissed him softly. Then let's start. Really start. No more hesitation, no more second guessing. Let's see where this goes, even though it's going to be complicated. Especially because it's going to be complicated, she smiled. I've done easy. Easy is boring. Emma's door opened and she poked her head out. Are you guys still being mushy? Because I'm hungry and we have zero food. There's leftover pizza in the fridge, Jack called back. That's 3 days old. I'm not eating food poisoning. Emma emerged fully, gave them both a pointed look. Also, Sarah's trending on Twitter, number 3 worldwide. You're number 7, Dad. I'm on Twitter? Jack fumbled for his phone. Not really. People are tweeting about you. Emma showed them her screen. Sure enough, Hetch Jack Thornton was filled with people debating everything from his hero status to whether Sarah was too good for him to think pieces about class and romance. Sarah winced. I'm sorry, this is weird, Emma supplied, but also kind of cool. Like my dad is trending. That's surreal. She scrolled through more tweets. Oh, here's a good one. Jack Thornton is what actual masculinity looks like. Risked everything for a stranger, asked for nothing, treats his kid like gold. More men should aspire. That's nice, right? Can we not read tweets about me? Jack pleaded. It's making me uncomfortable. There's one calling you a gold digger, Emma continued, ignoring him. That's hilarious. Oh, and someone started a GoFundMe to help Jack buy a suit for fancy CEO events. It's already at $6,000. What? No, absolutely not. Jack grabbed for the phone, but Emma danced away. Too late. It's the internet. Once it starts, you can't stop it. Sarah was trying very hard not to laugh. For what it's worth, I think you look great in flannel. See? Sarah thinks you're hot in your work clothes. Emma grinned. I'm keeping the GoFundMe link. College fund. Emma? Margaret Thornton? Okay, I'll have them shut it down. But she was still grinning. Can we order Chinese, please? I'll even let you two have your weird adult alone time after, if you feed me. Jack looked at Sarah, who shrugged. Chinese sounds perfect. They ordered enough food for 6 people because apparently Sarah had never ordered takeout before and didn't understand reasonable portions. Emma took her share and retreated to her room to video chat with friends, leaving Jack and Sarah surrounded by containers of lo mein and orange chicken. This is nice, Sarah said, expertly wielding chopsticks. Normal. When's the last time I did something normal? You really never ordered takeout. I have a meal service. They deliver prepared organic meals tailored to my nutritional needs and meeting schedule. At Jack's expression, she laughed. I know, it's ridiculous, but it's efficient. Efficient isn't the same as living. I'm starting to realize that. Jack's phone buzzed again. This time it was Miguel. Saw the news. Proud of you, man. Also, you're definitely trending on the site. Tommy's telling everyone he called it first. Then another text from a number Jack didn't recognize. Mr. Thornton, this is Linda Martinez from Chen Enterprises. I see Ms. Chen has made a public statement. The board would like to arrange a meeting with you both to discuss how to handle the media attention. Please call me Monday morning. Jack showed Sarah the message. She sighed. I was hoping we'd have more than 12 hours before corporate got involved. What does that mean? A meeting with the board? It means they want to make sure you're not a liability, that this relationship won't damage the company's image or stock price, that you understand what you're getting into. Sarah set down her chopsticks. They're going to be formal and intimidating and probably offer you an NDA to sign. An NDA about what? About me. About us. About anything you might learn about Chen Enterprises through proximity to me. She rubbed her temples. This is exactly the kind of thing that makes dating impossible when you're a CEO. So what do we do? Sarah looked at him, really looked at him, like she was memorizing his face. We have 2 options. 1, we end this now before it gets more complicated. You go back to your life, I go back to mine, and we have a nice story about a moment of connection that didn't work out. Jack's chest tightened. What's option 2? 2, we tell the board to shove their meeting. I'm a 38-year-old woman who can date whoever she wants. They don't get a say in my personal life, NDA or not. She reached across the table, took his hand. But that option means things get harder. More scrutiny, more press, more people having opinions about us. Are you ready for that? Are you? I asked you first. Jack thought about Emma's face when she'd seen the photographers. Thought about Mary and the quiet life they'd built, free from cameras and commentary. Thought about all the ways this could go wrong, all the complications still ahead. Then he thought about Sarah's smile when she watched Emma win the Science Bowl, the way she'd stood up to those photographers without hesitation, the feeling of her hand in his, solid and real and right. I'm ready, he said. Bring on the board meeting. Sarah's smile could have lit up the entire house. You're sure? Because once we do this, there's no going back to anonymous construction worker. You'll be Jack Thornton, the guy dating Sarah Chen. That identity follows you. Good thing I'm comfortable with who I am then. Jack squeezed her hand. Besides, someone once told me that the heart decisions are the ones you remember. This is a heart decision. Using my own wisdom against me. That's fighting dirty. You should see me negotiate with Emma over bedtime. I fight very dirty. They cleaned up the Chinese food containers together, moving around Jack's small kitchen with surprising synchronization. Sarah washed while Jack dried, and there was something deeply intimate about the domestic simplicity of it. No staff, no meal service, just two people doing dishes. I could get used to this, Sarah said softly. Washing dishes? Being normal. Being with you. She handed him a plate. It's like I can breathe for the first time in 15 years. Jack set down the dish towel, turned her to face him. Her hands were still wet, dripping on his floor, but he didn't care. He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, pouring every unspoken feeling into the connection between them. When they finally broke apart, Sarah was breathless. What was that for? For being brave. For choosing this. For being you. Jack tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. And fair warning, I'm falling for you, like seriously falling. So if you're going to back out, do it now before I'm completely gone. Sarah's eyes went wide, then soft. Then bright with tears, she blinked away quickly. You can't just say things like that. Why not? It's true. Because She stopped, swallowed hard. Because I'm falling too, and that terrifies me. I don't do feelings well. I plan and strategize and control, and feelings don't follow any of those rules. Good. Plans are overrated anyway. Jack pulled her close, held her against his chest, to weigh quickly. You can't just say things like that. Why not? It's true. Because She stopped, swallowed hard. Because I'm falling too, and that terrifies me. I don't do feelings well. I plan and strategize and control, and feelings don't follow any of those rules. Good. Plans are overrated anyway. Jack pulled her close, held her against his chest. We'll figure it out as we go. That's a terrible strategy. Maybe, but it's our strategy. They stood there in Jack's kitchen, holding each other while Emma's music played softly through her bedroom door and the night deepened outside. Somewhere in the city, people were still tweeting about them. Reporters were still writing stories. Sarah's board was probably having emergency calls about image management. But here, in this small house, with its worn furniture and overflowing bookshelves, none of that mattered. Here, they were just Jack and Sarah, two people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances and decided to take a chance anyway. Emma emerged around 10, yawning. Sarah, are you staying over? Because if you are, the couch is pretty uncomfortable. You should probably take Dad's bed and he can have the couch. Emma! Jack felt his face heat. What? I'm being practical. We both know you'll offer anyway. Emma looked between them. Unless you're both sleeping in Dad's room? In which case, I'm 12 and really don't need those details. Sarah was trying not to laugh. I should probably go home anyway. Early morning tomorrow, lots to handle before the board meeting Monday. Or, Emma said carefully, you could stay, work from here. We have Wi-Fi, decent coffee, and Dad makes pretty good pancakes for breakfast. She focused on Sarah. Plus, if you leave now, the photographers might follow you. But if you stay, they get bored and go away. Strategic thinking. Jack gaped at his daughter. Since when are you a tactical genius? Since always. You just don't pay attention. Emma headed back toward her room. Guest towels are in the bathroom closet. Dad's got an extra toothbrush somewhere. Good night. She closed her door, leaving Jack and Sarah staring at each other. Did your 12-year-old just orchestrate a sleepover? Sarah asked. I think she did. I apologize for her complete lack of subtlety. Don't, Sarah smiled. She's right about the photographers, and I do have a lot of work I could do remotely tomorrow. She paused. Unless you're uncomfortable with me staying, Jack thought about it for exactly half a second. Guest room's small but clean. You're welcome to stay. Guest room, Sarah repeated, something teasing in her voice. Very proper. I'm a proper guy. You're a guy who kissed me senseless about 5 minutes ago. That was different. Sarah kissed him, cutting off whatever excuse he was forming. When she pulled back, she was grinning. Guest room is fine. For tonight. We're taking this slow, remember? Right, slow, proper. Jack was having trouble forming coherent thoughts with her this close. I'll get you those towels. He showed Sarah to the guest room, really more of an office with a futon, but Emma kept it reasonably clean for sleepovers. Sarah borrowed one of Jack's old t-shirts to sleep in, and seeing her in his clothes did things to Jack's heart that probably weren't healthy. "This okay?" she asked, gesturing to the shirt that hung to her thighs. "Perfect. You're perfect. I mean, it's perfect. The shirt. On you. Which is also, I'm going to stop talking now." Sarah laughed, went up on her toes to kiss his cheek. "Good night, Jack." "Night, Sarah." He made it to his own bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of his bed trying to process the fact that Sarah Chen was sleeping 20 feet away in his house wearing his shirt. His life had become surreal. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "She's perfect for you. Don't screw this up. Love you." Jack smiled, texted back, "Love you too, kiddo. Now go to sleep." "Already asleep? This is a ghost texting you." Emma, "Fine. But seriously, she's good for you. Mom would like her." That stopped Jack cold. Emma rarely talked about her mom in present tense, rarely speculated about what Mary would think about current events, that she felt comfortable enough to say this meant she really did approve of Sarah. "You think so?" he texted back. "I know so. Mom always said you needed someone who challenged you. Sarah definitely challenges you. True. Now seriously, sleep." Okay. "But Dad?" "I'm happy you're happy." Jack set down his phone, lay back on his bed, and stared at the ceiling. Happy? Was he happy? The word felt foreign after so many years of just surviving, just getting through each day for Emma's sake. But yeah, he was happy. Terrified and confused and completely out of his depth, but genuinely happy for the first time since Mary died. Sunday morning arrived with bright sunshine and Emma singing off-key in the kitchen. Jack shuffled out to find his daughter making pancakes while Sarah sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, already dressed and working despite it being barely 7 a.m. "Morning," Sarah said, looking up with a smile. "Emma's teaching me about dark matter. Apparently I've been fundamentally misunderstanding astrophysics my entire life." "Join the club," Jack said, moving to the coffee maker. "She corrects me at least once a week." "Because you keep calling asteroids space rocks, Dad. They have proper classifications." Emma flipped a pancake expertly. "Sarah, you want chocolate chips in yours?" "Absolutely." They had breakfast together, the three of them crowded around Jack's small table, and it felt startlingly domestic, natural, like they'd been doing this for years instead of one night. After breakfast, while Emma showered and Sarah returned to her laptop, Jack's phone rang. Linda Martinez again. "Mr. Thornton, good morning. I wanted to follow up about Monday's meeting. 10 a.m. at Chen Enterprises headquarters. Please dress appropriately, business casual at minimum." "About that meeting," Jack started. "It's non-negotiable, I'm afraid. The board is quite insistent." "Then I guess I'll see you Monday." Jack hung up before Linda could respond. Sarah looked up from her laptop. "The board?" "Meeting's confirmed, Monday at 10. Jack refilled his coffee. "Your assistant strongly suggested I dress appropriately." "Ignore her. Wear whatever makes you comfortable." Sarah closed her laptop. "Jack, I meant what I said last night. They don't get to dictate our relationship. This meeting is a formality. They'll posture, make their concerns known, and ultimately accept that I'm an adult who makes her own decisions." "You sound very confident about that." "I own 51% of Chen Enterprises. They can't actually stop me from doing anything." She paused. "But I'd like you there anyway. Show them exactly who you are. Let them see what I see." "And what's that?" Sarah stood, moved to where Jack leaned against the counter, slid her arms around his waist. "Someone genuine. Someone who knows what actually matters. Someone who makes me want to be better than I've been." Emma's voice floated from the hallway. "If you guys are making out in the kitchen, please stop before I come out there and I'm traumatized forever." They broke apart, both laughing. Sarah called out, "Your daughter has excellent timing." "She really doesn't," Jack muttered, but he was smiling. The rest of Sunday passed in surprising normalcy. Sarah worked while Emma did homework, and Jack tackled some repairs around the house he'd been putting off. They ordered pizza for lunch, watched a documentary about black holes that Emma insisted they'd both enjoy, and generally existed together in a way that felt comfortable rather than forced. It wasn't until Sarah was preparing to leave, she had meetings Monday morning before the board situation, that reality intruded again. "I'll send a car for you tomorrow," she said, gathering her things. 9:30 pickup, gets you to the office with time to spare. "I can drive myself." "To downtown during rush hour? That's like an hour in traffic from here." Sarah touched his face gently. "Let me do this one thing. Please." Jack nodded and Sarah kissed him goodbye. A real kiss, full of promise and heat, completely inappropriate with Emma in the next room, but neither of them cared. "Monday, then," Sarah whispered against his lips. "Monday." She left, and the house felt emptier without her. Emma appeared in the doorway, watching Sarah's car pull away. "You really like her," Emma observed. "I really do." "Good, because she really likes you too." Emma turned to face him. "Dad, I know this is scary. New relationship, complicated situation, all that stuff. But you deserve to be happy, and she makes you happy. So whatever happens tomorrow with those board people, don't let them take that away from you." Jack pulled his daughter into a hug. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You just don't listen." Monday morning, Jack stood in front of his closet, having a minor crisis. Business casual, Linda had said. But Jack's version of business casual was khakis and a button-up, and he had a feeling Chen Enterprises' version was something entirely different. Emma appeared in his doorway, holding up a crisp white dress shirt. "Found this in the back of your closet. It's from Mom's funeral, but it still fits. Wear this with your dark jeans, and you'll be fine." "Since when are you a fashion consultant?" "Since my dad started dating a CEO and needs to not embarrass himself." She thrust the shirt at him. "And Dad? Just be yourself." That's who she fell for. The car arrived precisely at 9:30, a sleek black sedan with a professional driver who didn't try to make small talk. Jack appreciated that. He was nervous enough without having to maintain polite conversation. Chen Enterprises' headquarters was a glass and steel tower in the heart of downtown, the kind of building that screamed money and power. Jack had driven past it hundreds of times, but never imagined he'd actually enter. The lobby alone was probably bigger than his entire house. Linda Martinez met him at security, clipboard in hand and expression neutral. "Mr. Thornton, right on time. Ms. Chen is in the meeting already. We're on the 42nd floor." The elevator ride was silent and seemingly endless. When the doors finally opened, Jack found himself in a reception area that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. Everything was chrome and glass and expensive art he didn't understand. "This way." Linda led him down a hallway to a massive conference room. Through the glass walls, Jack could see a long table surrounded by people in suits. Sarah sat at the head, looking every inch the CEO in a charcoal suit and her hair pulled back severely. She looked up when Jack entered, and her expression softened just slightly. "Mr. Thornton, thank you for coming." Her voice was formal, professional. "Everyone, this is Jack Thornton. Jack, this is Chen Enterprises' board of directors." 10 faces turned to study him. Jack recognized a few from news articles. Richard Chen, Sarah's uncle and largest minority shareholder. Margaret Wu, chief financial officer. David Park, head of operations. The others were strangers, but they all wore the same expression, calculating skepticism. "Mr. Thornton." Richard Chen spoke first. "Please, have a seat." Jack sat in the empty chair beside Sarah, hyper-aware of every eye on him. He felt like a specimen under a microscope. "We appreciate you taking the time," Richard continued. "As you're aware, Ms. Chen's social media post Saturday evening generated significant attention. The board felt it prudent to discuss the potential implications." "Implications?" Jack repeated flatly. "For the company," Margaret Wu clarified. "Chen Enterprises has worked hard to cultivate a specific image. Any personal relationships involving our CEO inevitably reflect on that image. So you want to vet me, make sure I'm not going to embarrass your bottom line." Silence. Then David Park smiled, not kindly. "Mr. Thornton, you have to understand our position. Ms. Chen is the face of this company. Her personal life is, by extension, company business. We need assurances that this relationship won't become problematic." "Problematic how?" Jack felt his temper rising but kept his voice level. The media attention, your background, the optics of a CEO dating someone so far outside her usual social circle. Richard leaned forward. We're not saying you're not a good man, Mr. Thornton. Your actions during the accident speak to your character, but this relationship raises questions. Jack looked at Sarah. She was rigid, jaw tight, clearly holding back. This was her fight to have, but she was letting him handle it first, trusting him to hold his own. Let me save us all some time, Jack said. You want to know if I'm with Sarah for her money? If I'm going to sell stories to tabloids? If I'll become a liability that damages your precious company image? He met each board member's gaze in turn. The answer to all of that is no. I don't want Sarah's money. I already turned down a substantial reward from this very company. I don't want fame or attention. I just want Sarah, the person, not the CEO. That's easy to say, Margaret observed. Harder to prove. I'm not interested in proving anything to you, Jack's voice hardened. Sarah is a grown woman who can make her own decisions about her personal life. Whether you approve or not is irrelevant. Actually, it's quite relevant, Richard countered. Sarah may own controlling shares, but she still answers to this board. If we determine that this relationship poses a risk to the company, we can make things very difficult. Sarah stood abruptly. No, Uncle Richard, you really can't. The room went silent. Every board member stared at Sarah, who remained standing, her hands flat on the conference table, looking more commanding than Jack had ever seen her. With all due respect, Ms. Chen, Margaret started. No more with all due respect. Sarah's voice cut like ice. For 15 years, I have given everything to this company. Missed weddings, funerals, holidays, sacrificed relationships, health, any semblance of a personal life. I've quintupled our value, expanded into 6 new markets, and just closed a $3.7 billion merger that you all said was impossible. She straightened, pulling herself to full height. And now you're sitting here in my conference room questioning whether I'm allowed to date someone who doesn't meet your approval? Sarah, we're simply concerned, Richard began. You're concerned about optics, about what investors might think, about maintaining the carefully constructed image of Sarah Chen, untouchable CEO. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You know what? I'm tired of being untouchable. I'm tired of being more symbol than human being. David Park shifted uncomfortably. The company's reputation is built on innovation and results, not on who I date. Sarah's eyes blazed. Jack Thornton saved my life. He asked for nothing in return. He sees me as a person, not a profit margin. And if that somehow damages our reputation, then maybe our reputation deserves to be damaged. Jack stood slowly, moved to Sarah's side. She glanced at him, and he saw the tremor in her composure, saw how much this defiance was costing her. Sarah, he said quietly, meant only for her. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. She turned back to the board. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to continue seeing Jack. You're going to accept it. And if any of you have a problem with that, you're welcome to tender your resignation. You can't be serious, Margaret said. Sarah, think about what you're saying. The shareholders will care about quarterly earnings, not my love life. And if they do care, they can sell their shares. Sarah gathered her tablet, her coffee, her composure wrapping around her like armor. This meeting is over. Jack, would you join me in my office? She strode out without waiting for a response. Jack followed, very aware of 10 pairs of eyes burning into his back. Behind him, he heard Richard Chen's voice. She's making a mistake. We need to contain this before it spirals. Sarah's office was on the same floor, a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The moment the door closed behind them, her armor cracked. She set down her things with shaking hands, pressed her palms against the desk. That was, she started. Incredible, Jack finished. Terrifying and probably career-limiting, but incredible. I just threatened my entire board. Sarah's laugh was slightly hysterical. Uncle Richard has been with this company since my grandfather founded it. Margaret Wu has been CFO for a decade. I basically told them all to get lost. You told them you're human, that you get to have a life outside these walls. Jack moved closer. That took guts. or stupidity. They could make this very difficult for me. Start questioning my decisions, slow-walking approvals, making my life hell. She turned to face him. And it's all because of us. Because I couldn't just keep this quiet and simple. Do you regret it, going public? Sarah studied his face for a long moment. No, I don't. But Jack, you need to understand what you're signing up for. This is my world. Boardrooms and power plays and people who'll use our relationship as a weapon. It's only going to get more complicated. I'm starting to think complicated is our normal. Jack took her hands. And I'm okay with that. You shouldn't be. You should run. Find someone normal who doesn't come with corporate drama and a board of directors with opinions about your relationship. Probably. But I'm not interested in normal. I'm interested in you. Sarah pulled him into a kiss that tasted like desperation and relief. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. I don't deserve you, she whispered. Good thing it's not about deserving. It's about choosing. Jack kissed her temple. And I choose this. I choose you. Complicated board meetings and all. A knock interrupted them. Linda Martinez poked her head in, her expression carefully neutral. Ms. Chen, your uncle is requesting a private word. Sarah sighed. Tell him I'm busy. He's quite insistent. Fine, 5 minutes. Sarah turned to Jack. This might get ugly. You should probably... I'm staying. Jack settled into one of the visitor chairs. Unless you want me to go? No, I want you here. She squeezed his hand briefly before moving behind her desk, reassembling her CEO persona. Send him in, Linda. Richard Chen entered looking every bit the patriarch. Silver hair, perfectly styled, suit that probably cost more than Jack's truck, expression stern. He barely glanced at Jack before focusing on Sarah. That was quite a performance in there. It wasn't a performance, Uncle Richard. It was the truth. The truth. He shook his head. Sarah, I've known you since you were born, watched you grow up in your grandfather's shadow, saw you take over this company when you were barely more than a child. And in all that time, I've never seen you this reckless. Reckless, Sarah repeated. Is that what we're calling happiness now? I'm calling it distraction, sentiment, exactly the kind of weakness this company can't afford from its leader. Richard's gaze finally shifted to Jack. No offense, Mr. Thornton, I'm sure you're a decent man, but you don't belong in Sarah's world. You're right, Jack said evenly. I don't. But maybe she doesn't belong entirely in this world either. Richard's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Look at her. Jack nodded towards Sarah. Really look at her. When's the last time you saw her smile? Really smile, not the practiced expression she uses for investors. When's the last time she took a vacation, had a meal that wasn't a business dinner, did anything that wasn't about this company? That's the price of leadership. That's the price of forgetting you're human. Jack stood, moved to Sarah's side. She almost died 3 weeks ago, trapped in a car, water rising, thinking her last thoughts would be about quarterly reports and merger documents. Is that really the legacy you want for her? Richard's jaw tightened. You think you can give her something better? You? With your construction job and your... He stopped himself, but the implication hung in the air. Uncle Richard? Sarah's voice was dangerously quiet. Finish that sentence. I dare you. I'm simply being realistic. Mr. Thornton comes from a different background, different values, different expectations. Richard's tone softened slightly. Sarah, I'm trying to protect you from making a mistake that could cost you everything you've built. What if everything I've built isn't worth protecting? The question fell like a bomb. Sarah stood, moved around her desk to face her uncle directly. What if I've spent 15 years building a prison and calling it success? That's absurd. Chen Enterprises is your grandfather's legacy. Is a company, just a company. It's not my entire existence, no matter how much you and the board want it to be. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. Grandfather built this company, yes. But he also told me right before he died that he regretted putting it before family, before life. He made me promise not to make his mistakes. He was delirious. He was lucid, clear, and he was right. Sarah blinked back tears. I've become exactly what he warned me against, so focused on the empire that I forgot about the person. Well, not anymore. Richard looked genuinely shaken. Sarah, please, think about this rationally. This man has a name, Jack. Use it. Jack, Richard conceded stiffly, is a complication you don't need right now. The merger is still integrating, the Shanghai office is struggling, the board is already nervous about. Then let them be nervous. Let them question. Let them see that their CEO is a complete person with a complete life. Sarah's determination seemed to solidify with each word. I'm not ending this relationship to make you or the board comfortable. That's final. Richard studied his niece for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, his expression softened. You really care about him. I do. Enough to risk everything? Enough to remember that everything should include more than just this company. Richard sighed heavily, suddenly looking older. Your grandfather would have a few choice words about this situation. Probably, but he'd also understand. Sarah's voice gentled. Uncle Richard, I know you're trying to protect me, but I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing, that I can handle both the company and a personal life. Can you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're making an emotional decision that could have serious professional consequences. Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally making a human decision after 15 years of only making corporate ones. Sarah glanced at Jack, and her expression transformed, became softer, more vulnerable. He's worth the risk. Richard followed her gaze to Jack, really looking at him for the first time. Jack met his stare evenly, refusing to be intimidated. You love her, Richard said. Not a question. Jack didn't hesitate. Yes. And when the media circus intensifies, when investors start asking questions, when every detail of your life becomes public fodder, then we deal with it together. Simplistic answer. Honest answer. Jack moved closer to Sarah, their shoulders touching. I'm not naive. I know this won't be easy. But I also know that walking away because it's difficult isn't the answer. Not for me, and not for her. Richard was silent for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled, small and reluctant, but genuine. Your grandfather would have liked you, Mr. Thornton. He appreciated people who stood their ground. He turned back to Sarah. I still think you're being reckless, but I also remember being young and in love and certain that I could handle anything the world threw at me. Uncle Richard, I'll talk to the board, smooth things over. But Sarah, you need to understand, they're not going to just accept this quietly. There will be pushback, questions, possibly even attempts to undermine your authority. Let them try. Sarah's chin lifted. I fought bigger battles than board politics. Indeed you have. Richard moved toward the door, paused. One more thing. Mr. Thornton, if you hurt her, you'll destroy me. I get it. Jack's voice was dry. For the record, I have no intention of hurting her. Intentions and outcomes are different things. Remember that. Richard left, closing the door softly behind him. Sarah sagged against her desk. That went better than expected. Better? He basically threatened to have me killed. No, he threatened to destroy you. Killing would be too quick for Uncle Richard. Sarah laughed weakly. But he's going to help with the board. That's huge. Jack pulled her close, let her rest against his chest. Are you okay? I just defied my entire board of directors and told my uncle that I'm prioritizing my love life over corporate concerns. I should be panicking. She tilted her head up to look at him. But I'm not. I feel free, lighter, like I've been holding my breath for 15 years and finally remembered how to exhale. That's good, right? That's terrifying. But she was smiling. Jack, I just jeopardized everything I've spent my adult life building. For us. For the possibility of us. Regret it? Ask me again in 5 years. It's a date. They stood there in her office, holding each other while the city sprawled below, and somewhere in the building, a board of directors probably plotted damage control. Jack's phone buzzed, a text from Miguel. Heard you had a meeting with the Suits. Still alive? He typed back one-handed. Barely. Tell you later. Sarah's phone also started buzzing. She ignored it at first, but the notifications kept coming. Finally, she checked, then groaned. What? News leaked about the board meeting. Someone posted that there was an emergency session regarding CEO's relationship status. Twitter's having a field day. We're trending again? Number 2 worldwide this time. You moved up from number 7. Sarah scrolled through her phone, wincing. Oh, this is lovely. Chen Enterprises in crisis as CEO chooses construction worker over company. Real subtle. Is that going to be a problem? For the stock price, maybe. But Richard wasn't wrong. Investors mostly care about earnings, not my dating life. Once they see the quarterly reports are still strong, they'll calm down. And if they don't? Sarah set down her phone, cupped Jack's face in her hands. Then they don't. Jack, I meant what I said in that meeting. You're worth it. This, us, is worth it. And I'm done letting fear dictate my choices. That's a big change from 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I was trapped in a car waiting to die. Funny how near-death experiences rearrange your priorities. She kissed him softly. You rearranged my priorities. Made me remember what actually matters. Happy to help, though there were probably less dramatic ways to reach that conclusion. Where's the fun in that? Linda knocked again, poked her head in without waiting. Ms. Chen, I have your afternoon schedule. Conference call with Shanghai at 2, investor briefing at 3:30, and the marketing team needs approval on... She stopped, seeing them still in embrace. Should I come back? No, it's fine. Sarah reluctantly stepped back from Jack. What does the rest of my day look like? Fully booked until 7. Then you have the charity gala tonight. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. I forgot about the gala. It's the Children's Hospital fundraiser. You're the keynote speaker. Linda consulted her tablet. Your dress is already at your apartment. Hair and makeup team arrives at 5. Right, of course. Sarah turned to Jack. I'm sorry, this is your job. I understand. Jack picked up his jacket. I should get going anyway. Let you actually work. Jack, it's fine. Really? He kissed her forehead. Text me after the gala? It'll be late, probably midnight. I'll be up. He left before she could protest further, nodding to Linda on his way out. The elevator ride down felt longer than the ride up, and Jack spent it processing everything that had just happened. Sarah had stood up to her board for him, chosen him over their approval, risked professional consequences for their relationship. The weight of that was starting to sink in. Outside, the city was bright and busy, oblivious to the corporate drama playing out in the tower above. Jack's phone rang as he waited for a cab. Emma. Hey, kiddo, shouldn't you be in class? Lunch break. How'd the meeting go? It went. How'd you even know about it? Dad, it's on the news. Chen Enterprises board meets to discuss CEO's controversial romance. You're famous. Jack rubbed his temples. I'm really not. The internet disagrees. Oh, and someone made a meme out of that photo from the Science Bowl. You and Sarah looking at each other. Caption says, when you find someone worth fighting a board of directors for. It's actually pretty cute. Emma, I know, but Dad, seriously, how are you? Are you okay? The simple question, asked with genuine concern, nearly undid him. Yeah, Em, I'm okay. Overwhelmed, but okay. Is Sarah okay? She's strong, stronger than I expected. She stood up for us. Good, that's good. A bell rang in the background. Gotta go. Love you, Dad. And hey, I'm proud of you. For what? For being brave, for not backing down, for showing me that sometimes the scary thing is the right thing. Another bell. Seriously gotta go. Mrs. Peterson's giving me the look. Bye. She hung up before Jack could respond. He stood there on the sidewalk, phone in hand, feeling the truth of Emma's words settle into his bones. He had been brave, had stood his ground in that boardroom, refused to be intimidated, supported Sarah when she needed it. Mary would have been proud too, he realized. She'd always pushed him to stand up for himself, to recognize his own worth. She would have liked Sarah, would have approved of someone who challenged him to be more than he thought he could be. The cab ride home was quiet, giving Jack too much time to think about Sarah's office, about the board meeting, about the way her uncle had looked at him like he was a problem to be solved, about the gala Sarah was attending tonight, full of people from her world who would probably share Richard Chen's opinion. His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Miss you already. Is that pathetic? He smiled despite himself. Only if it's pathetic that I miss you too. We're hopeless, completely. How's your afternoon? Conference call was brutal. Shanghai's unhappy about the merger terms, but I keep thinking about you instead of focusing on logistics. Should I apologize for being distracting? Never. You're the best kind of distraction. Jack was still smiling when he got home. The house felt empty without Emma. She was at school for another 3 hours, and he found himself restless. He tried watching TV, gave up after 10 minutes, attempted to read, couldn't focus, finally settled on doing what he always did when his mind was too full, working with his hands. He spent the afternoon fixing the loose railing on the front porch, a project he'd been putting off for months. The physical work helped, gave him something concrete to focus on while his thoughts churned. Sometime around 4, Miguel called. So, board meeting. Want to talk about it? Not particularly. Tommy's telling everyone you told a bunch of billionaires to shove it. That true? Jack paused mid-hammer swing. Not exactly. Sarah did most of the telling. But you backed her up. Of course I did. Good man. Miguel was quiet for a moment. Jack, you know this is going to get complicated, right? Company politics, media attention, all that garbage. You ready for it? No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's either brave or stupid. Probably both. Jack set down the hammer. Miguel, can I ask you something? Shoot. You've been married, 20 years? How do you make it work? The differences, the challenges, all of it? Miguel laughed. You want my secret? There isn't one. Maria and I fight. We disagree. She thinks I work too much. I think she spoils the kids. But at the end of the day, we choose each other. Every single day, we make that choice. That's all you can do. Choose each other. Yep, everything else, money, status, what other people think, it's all noise. What matters is the choice. Miguel paused. This Sarah, she's choosing you too? Yeah, she is. Then you'll be fine. Trust that. They talked a while longer about work, about Emma's Science Bowl victory, about nothing important. When Jack hung up, he felt steadier, choosing each other. He could do that. Emma came home around 5, full of energy and news about her day. She'd been approached by 3 different classmates wanting to know about Sarah, had to explain to her physics teacher that no, she couldn't get Sarah to come speak at Career Day because Sarah was busy running a multi-billion-dollar company. Everyone's being so weird about it, Emma complained, raiding the fridge for a snack. Like, yes, my dad's dating someone successful. No, that doesn't mean I suddenly have access to unlimited money or connections. Jessica Martinez actually asked if Sarah could get her dad a job. It's ridiculous. People are curious. It'll die down. When? Because I'm getting tired of being the girl whose dad is dating the famous CEO. She emerged with an apple, took a fierce bite. I just want things to be normal again. Jack felt a stab of guilt. I'm sorry, Em. I didn't think about how this would affect you at school. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for media attention. She settled at the kitchen table. But Dad, seriously, is it always going to be like this? Reporters and attention and people treating us different? I don't know. Probably gets easier with time. And if it doesn't? Jack sat across from her. Then we deal with it, together. But Em, if this is too much, if you need me to step back from Sarah, no. Emma's eyes went wide. Dad, no. I like Sarah. I like seeing you happy. I'm adjusting. That's all. You're sure? Positive. Besides, Kaylee thinks the whole thing is romantic. She's been reading me tweets about you guys all day. Some of them are actually really sweet. Emma pulled out her phone, scrolled. Here. Jack Thornton is proof that good men still exist. Risked his life for a stranger, treats his kid like gold, and isn't afraid to stand up to corporate America. We stan. What's stan mean? I have no idea. I think it means they support you. Oh, here's another one. Sarah Chen chose a real man over board approval. That's the kind of CEO we need, one who remembers humanity matters more than shareholders. People have too much time on their hands. Or they're invested in your love story. It's kind of sweet, actually, like the whole internet is rooting for you guys. Emma kept scrolling. Though there are some mean ones, too. Lots of people saying you're a gold digger or Sarah's slumming or whatever. I report those for harassment. Emma, you don't have to defend me online. Yes, I do. You're my dad. And they're wrong about you. She set down her phone, looked at him seriously. You're the best person I know, Dad. If people can't see that, that's their problem. Jack's throat tightened. Love you, kiddo. Love you too. Now, what's for dinner? Because I'm starving and we both know you haven't thought about food once today. She was right. Jack ordered Chinese, seemed to be becoming a habit, and they ate while watching Emma's favorite space documentary. Around 8, Jack's phone buzzed with a photo from Sarah. It was a selfie, clearly taken in a bathroom at the gala. She was in a stunning black gown, hair swept up elegantly, but her expression was exasperated. The caption read, "Hour 2 of smiling at people I don't like while they pretend to care about charity. Send help." Jack texted back, "You look beautiful and miserable, both accurate. Currently hiding in the ladies' room. Is it socially acceptable to fake a medical emergency? Probably not. How much longer? Keynote speech in 20 minutes, then at least another hour of networking. Kill me now. Hang in there. Think of it as practice for tolerating my family at Thanksgiving. You want me to meet your family?" Jack paused, realizing what he'd implied. They'd been together, officially, for less than 2 weeks. Thanksgiving was months away, but somehow the idea of Sarah at his family gatherings felt natural. Right. Eventually. If you want, I want. Fair warning, though, I'm terrible at family things. Only child, dead parents. Uncle Richard's idea of family dinner is a board meeting with catering. We'll ease you in. Maybe start with just Emma and me. Work up to the cousins. Deal. Okay. They're calling me back. Wish me luck. Good luck. Knock 'em dead. With boredom, probably. Talk later. Emma looked up from her documentary. Sarah okay? Hating a charity gala. Rich people problems. But Emma was smiling. She really doesn't fit the CEO stereotype, does she? What do you mean? I don't know. I always thought people like her would be cold, untouchable. But she texts you bathroom selfies and complains about networking. She's just normal, in a good way. She is pretty normal when she's not terrifying board members. I want to hear about that, by the way. The whole meeting. Don't leave anything out. So Jack told her, editing only slightly for age appropriateness. Emma listened with rapt attention, gasping at the right moments, cheering when Sarah stood up to the board. She told them she'd rather have you than their approval? Emma's eyes shone. Dad, that's like something from a movie. Real life, kiddo. I know, but still, how many people would actually do that? Risk everything for someone they've known a few weeks? Emma hugged her knees to her chest. She must really love you. She hasn't said that. She doesn't have to. It's obvious. Jack thought about that after Emma went to bed, about love and choices and the terrifying speed at which his life had transformed. 3 weeks ago, he'd been alone, focused only on Emma and work, and getting through each day. Now he was dating a CEO, trending on Twitter, and contemplating Thanksgiving dinners with someone he was absolutely, terrifyingly falling in love with. His phone rang around 11:30. Sarah, finally free from the gala. Hey, her voice was tired. Sorry for calling so late. I told you I'd be up. How was it? Excruciating. 3 hours of people who donate to charity for tax breaks and social capital, pretending they care about sick children. Sarah sighed. Though we did raise $2 million, so I guess the pretending serves a purpose. That's good, right? It's necessary. I just hate the performance of it all. The fake smiles, the strategic conversations, the networking that's really just transactional relationships dressed up as friendship. A pause. Is it terrible that the only thing that got me through tonight was thinking about you? Not terrible. Kind of nice, actually. I kept imagining what you'd say about everything. The overpriced wine, the speeches that were 90% self-congratulation, the woman who cornered me about her son's startup and couldn't take no for an answer. Jack laughed. What would I say? Probably something honest and cutting that would make me laugh. You have a gift for seeing through bullshit. Sarah's voice softened. I miss you. I know that's ridiculous. We spent this morning together, but I miss you. I miss you too. Can I see you tomorrow? I have meetings until 3, but after that I'm free. Emma has tutoring until 5. Could do dinner after. Perfect. Though fair warning, I'm about to ask you something that might sound crazy. Jack sat up straighter. Okay. Come to the Singapore conference with me next month. What? Chen Enterprises is opening a new office there. Big deal. Lots of presentations and networking. It's a week-long trip, and I have to go. But I'd really like you there with me. Sarah rushed on. I know it's a lot to ask. You'd miss work, and Emma would have to stay with someone, and it's probably too soon for international trips, but yes. Silence. Then, yes? Yeah, I'll come. Might take some convincing Miguel to give me the time off, but yes. Really? Just like that? Sarah, you told your board of directors to shove it for me today. I think I can handle a business trip to Singapore. It won't be just business. There'll be formal dinners, conferences, people judging every move we make. You'll have to wear suits and make small talk with international investors and, Sarah, breathe. I said yes, I'm in. You're sure? Completely. Jack smiled into the phone. Besides, never been to Singapore. Might be fun. Fun is not the word I'd use for corporate conferences. Then we'll make our own fun. Play corporate bingo, rate the boring speeches, sneak away when no one's looking. Sarah's laugh was bright with relief. Have I mentioned I'm falling for you? Jack's heart stuttered. You might have implied it. I'm making it explicit. Jack Thornton, I am absolutely, irrevocably falling in love with you. It's terrifying and inappropriate and probably happening way too fast, but it's true. Good, Jack managed, his voice rough. Because I'm falling too. Have been since you asked why someone like me would save someone like you. Stupid question, by the way. I know. I'm sorry I ever asked it. Don't be. It led us here. They talked until nearly 1 a.m. about nothing and everything. Emma's latest astronomy obsession, Sarah's plans for the Singapore office, what they'd have for dinner tomorrow, whether Jack looked better in blue or gray. When they finally said goodnight, Jack lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling like his entire world had tilted on its axis. Sarah loved him, or was falling in love with him, which was close enough. And he loved her back, this impossible woman who'd crashed into his life and turned everything upside down. His phone buzzed one more time, a text from Sarah. Sweet dreams. And Jack? Thank you for choosing me, every day. It means more than you know. He typed back, always. That's the easiest choice I've ever made. The next week fell into a pattern that somehow felt both surreal and natural. Sarah would text him good morning before her first meeting. Jack would call during his lunch break. They'd have dinner 3 or 4 nights a week, sometimes at Jack's house, sometimes at restaurants that Sarah insisted on paying for despite Jack's protests, once memorably at Sarah's penthouse, where Emma had stared wide-eyed at the floor-to-ceiling windows and declared it basically a spaceship. The media attention started to ease, as Sarah predicted. There were still occasional photographers, still tweets and speculation, but the feeding frenzy had calmed to a dull roar. Jack learned to ignore the cameras, to walk past reporters without engaging, to let Sarah's security team handle the worst of it. Emma adjusted too, finding her footing at school once the initial curiosity died down. She even started to enjoy some aspects of it, particularly when Sarah arranged for her to tour the observatory at the university, complete with a private session with the head astronomer who let Emma look through telescopes that cost more than Jack's house. She didn't have to do that, Jack said when Sarah mentioned it casually over dinner. I wanted to. Emma's brilliant. She should have access to resources that match her potential. Sarah picked at her pasta. Besides, seeing her face when she looked through that telescope, that was worth every favor I had to call in. You're good for her, for both of us. I hope so. Sarah set down her fork. Jack, about Singapore, I need to prepare you for something. That sounds ominous. Not ominous, just realistic. Sarah took a breath. The international business community is different from here. More formal, more traditional. Some of the executives we'll meet, particularly the older generation, they're going to have opinions about us. About you. Let me guess. Wrong social class, wrong background, wrong everything? Basically. And unlike my board, these people I can't threaten. They're partners, investors, clients. I have to maintain relationships with them. So what are you saying? That I should stay home after all? No, God, no. I'm saying I need you prepared. There might be comments, snubs, people treating you like you're less than because you didn't go to the right schools or don't have the right pedigree. Sarah reached across the table, took his hand. And I need you to know that none of it is true. None of it matters to me. But it might matter to business. Business can adjust. Sarah's grip tightened. I'm not hiding you. I'm not pretending you're something you're not. I'm bringing my partner to Singapore, and if people have a problem with that, they can take their business elsewhere. Sarah, you can't afford to lose international clients because of me. Watch me. Jack studied her face, saw the determination there, the same fire she'd shown in that board meeting. You're serious? Completely. Jack, I spent 15 years playing by everyone else's rules, pretending to be what they wanted, sacrificing everything for corporate approval. I'm done with that. You're part of my life now, a big part. And I'm not apologizing for that. Even if it costs you professionally? Even then. Sarah stood, moved around the table to his side. Though honestly, I think it might help more than hurt. Turns out people respond to authenticity. The merger numbers are up since we went public. Employee satisfaction scores are climbing. Investors appreciate seeing a CEO who's a real person, not just a corporate robot. So I'm good for business? You're good for me. That makes you good for business. She settled into his lap, arms around his neck. Plus, you clean up nice in a suit. The Singapore executives won't know what hit them. I don't own a suit. We'll fix that. I know a tailor. Sarah, let me do this, please. Consider it a business expense. You're representing Chen Enterprises internationally. You need to look the part. Jack wanted to argue, but the plea in her voice stopped him. This mattered to her, he realized. Not because she was ashamed of him, but because she wanted to give him armor for the battle ahead. Okay, 1 suit for Singapore. 3 suits, 1 for the opening ceremony, 1 for the investor dinner, 1 for the closing gala. That's excessive. That's appropriate. Sarah kissed him softly. Trust me on this. Let me help you navigate my world. Fine. 3 suits. But I'm paying. With what? Your construction salary? I have savings. Not a lot, but enough. Sarah pulled back to look at him seriously. Jack, a single suit from the tailor I use costs about $4,000. You'd blow your entire savings on conference clothes. Jack's stomach dropped. $4,000 for 1 suit? Welcome to my world. Sarah's smile was sympathetic. And before you argue, this is on me. Call it a gift. Call it a business expense. Call it whatever makes you comfortable, but you're not spending your savings on my corporate requirements. I don't want to be someone you have to dress up and parade around. You're not. You're someone I want by my side. The suits are just packaging. They don't change who you are. She cupped his face in her hands. You could show up in jeans and a t-shirt, and you'd still be the most real person in that conference center. But this way, people will have one less thing to judge you for. Jack leaned into her touch. When did life get so complicated? About 3 weeks ago. Aren't you glad? Despite everything, he smiled. Yeah, I am. They were still sitting like that, wrapped up in each other, when Emma came home from tutoring. She took one look at them and groaned. Living room is a public space, you guys. There are rules. We're just sitting, Sarah said innocently. You're sitting in his lap. That's advanced sitting. But Emma was grinning. Also, Dad, Miguel called the house phone, said you need to call him back about the Singapore trip. Jack gently moved Sarah aside and grabbed his phone. 3 missed calls from Miguel. He stepped into the kitchen, called back. Finally, Miguel answered. Been trying to reach you for an hour. Sorry, phone was on silent. What's up? Singapore. You really going? That's the plan. I was going to talk to you about time off. Already approved. Full week, paid. Jack blinked. Paid? Miguel, I can't afford to take paid time off for a personal trip. It's not personal, it's business. Miguel's voice held a smile. Got a call today from Chen Enterprises HR. They're hiring us for a project. Renovation of their new Singapore office. Big contract, great money. And they specifically requested you as the on-site consultant for the week you'll be there. They what? Hired you, officially. You'll be working, just in Singapore instead of here. Same salary, plus travel stipend and accommodations. Miguel paused. Let me guess. You didn't know about this? No idea. Yeah, figured. Your girlfriend pulled some strings. Hope you don't mind. Jack looked into the living room where Sarah was showing Emma something on her phone, both of them laughing. She'd done this. Created a job, a reason, a way for him to go to Singapore without it being charity. No, Jack said quietly. I don't mind. Good, because it's a sweet deal and I wasn't turning it down. Details will be in your email. Meeting next week to go over the project scope. They talked logistics for a few more minutes before hanging up. Jack returned to the living room, caught Sarah's eye. She looked up, read something in his expression, and her smile turned knowing. Miguel called, Jack said. Did he? About a very interesting job offer. Imagine that. Emma looked between them. What job offer? Apparently Chen Enterprises needs renovation work in Singapore, and they specifically requested me as a consultant. Jack crossed his arms, trying for stern and failing. Funny timing. Hilarious, Sarah agreed, but purely coincidental. We do need renovation work. The Singapore office is a disaster, and you are the best construction consultant I know. I'm the only construction consultant you know. Details. Sarah stood, moved to him. Jack, I didn't do this to trick you or make you feel obligated. I did it because it's actually true. We do need the work. And because this way you get to come to Singapore on your own merit. Not as my +1, but as a professional consultant working on a Chen Enterprises project. You're unbelievable. Is that good or bad? Jack pulled her close, pressed his forehead to hers. Good. Terrifying, but good. So you're not mad? How can I be mad? You just turned a guilt-inducing corporate trip into a legitimate work assignment. You're brilliant. I know. Sarah kissed him quickly. And before you ask, the project is real. The timeline is real. The budget is real. I just may have accelerated the hiring process once I knew you'd be there anyway. Emma cleared her throat. Just to be clear, Dad's going to Singapore for work, but also to be with Sarah? Basically, Jack confirmed. And you'll be gone a whole week? Yeah, kiddo, but we'll video call every day, and Mrs. Chen already agreed to stay with you. Can I stay at Kaylee's instead? Her mom offered. Jack glanced at Sarah, who nodded. If it's okay with the Morrisons, it's okay with me. Yes, Emma pumped her fist. Kaylee's going to freak out. Her mom makes the best cookies, and they have the big TV, and… She stopped. I'm going to miss you, though. Both of you. We'll miss you too, Sarah said. But your dad will take lots of pictures, and we'll bring back something special. Don't bring me anything expensive, just something cool. Deal. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Jack met with Chen Enterprises' facilities team to review the Singapore project, which turned out to be genuine and substantial, requiring someone with his expertise in structural renovation. He got fitted for suits, feeling ridiculous as the tailor circled him with pins and measuring tape while Sarah supervised with an approving eye. You look good in charcoal, she commented as he stood on the fitting platform. I look like I'm playing dress-up. You look like a professional consultant who happens to also be devastatingly handsome. Sarah circled him slowly. The Singapore executives won't know what hit them. I thought the point was business, not seduction. Can't it be both? The tailor coughed politely, and Sarah laughed. Emma helped Jack pack, offering commentary on every choice. Bring the blue shirt, not the white one. Blue brings out your eyes, and Sarah got you those nice shoes. Wear them. Since when are you a fashion expert? Since my dad started dating someone who actually cares about this stuff. Emma folded one of his new shirts carefully. Dad, are you nervous? About Singapore. About everything. The trip, meeting all those important people, being in Sarah's world for real. Jack sat on the bed, honest with his daughter like he always tried to be. Terrified. But I'm going anyway. Because you love her. Yeah, because I love her. Emma hugged him tight. Good. She loves you too. I can tell. How? The way she looks at you, like you're the answer to a question she didn't know she was asking. Emma pulled back. Plus, She watches that space documentary with us, even though she's probably bored out of her mind. That's love. Jack laughed. That's consideration, maybe. Same thing. Emma returned to packing. Bring me back something cool, okay? Not expensive, just something that makes you think of me. Always do, kiddo. The day before the flight, Sarah took Jack and Emma to dinner, a proper goodbye meal before the week apart. They went to Mel's, at Jack's insistence, and the three of them crowded into their usual booth. This is where it started, Sarah said, looking around the diner. Our first real date. First date was the hospital, Jack corrected. That was a trauma bonding session. This was a date. Sarah reached across the table, took his hand. Feels like a lifetime ago. It was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks that changed everything. Sarah's eyes were soft. Best 3 weeks of my life. Emma made a gagging sound. Can we order before you guys get more sappy? I'm starving. They ordered the usual. Meatloaf for Jack, chicken fried steak for Sarah, burger for Emma. Mel brought their food with his customary smile and a knowing wink at Jack. Singapore, huh? Mel said. Fancy. How did you... Never mind, of course you know. Small town, big gossip. Mel grinned. You treat our girl right over there. Show those international types what real men look like. He'll show them, Emma said confidently. Dad's good at being real. After dinner, they walked Emma back home. Sarah had insisted on coming, even though it meant a late night before an early flight. At the door, Emma hugged Sarah tight. Take care of him, Emma whispered, and bring him back in one piece. I promise. Sarah hugged her back. And Emma, thank you for sharing him with me. Just don't forget to share him back. Jack kissed Emma goodnight, promised again to call every day, and watched her head inside. Then he and Sarah stood on his front porch, neither quite ready to say goodbye. This is it, Sarah said. Tomorrow we're flying halfway across the world together. Having second thoughts? Never. She stepped closer. Jack Thornton, I love you. Completely, terrifyingly, irrevocably. And I'm about to show you off to the entire international business community. Jack's heart felt too big for his chest. I love you too, even though you're crazy and you dress me in $4,000 suits and you turn my simple life completely upside down. Especially because of all that, Sarah corrected, and kissed him under the porch light, while somewhere inside Emma probably watched and smiled. Tomorrow they'd fly to Singapore. Tomorrow the real test would begin. Jack and Sarah's world completely, surrounded by her colleagues and competitors and critics. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new judgments, new obstacles to navigate. But tonight, they had this, the porch, the kiss. The love they'd chosen despite every logical reason not to. And somehow, that felt like enough to face whatever came next. The flight to Singapore was 18 hours of luxury Jack had never experienced. First-class seats that converted to beds, food that actually tasted good, flight attendants who knew Sarah by name and treated Jack with careful courtesy. Sarah worked for the first few hours, laptop balanced on the tray table, occasionally asking Jack's opinion on renovation plans or presentation slides. You don't have to pretend I understand all this, Jack said when she showed him a complex financial projection. I'm not pretending. You see things differently than my team does, practical things, real-world applications. Sarah highlighted a section. Like this expansion plan, does it make sense from a construction standpoint? Jack studied the diagrams, the timelines, the budget allocations. You're underestimating the foundation work. Singapore's built on reclaimed land. The soil conditions are tricky. You'll need deeper pilings, better drainage. Add at least 20% to this budget and 2 months to the timeline. Sarah stared at him. How do you know about Singapore's soil conditions? Googled it. Figured if I'm consulting on renovation, I should understand the environment. Jack shrugged. It's just research. It's brilliant. Sarah was already adjusting the spreadsheet. See? This is why I need you there. My team looks at numbers. You look at reality. Your team went to fancy business schools. I went to community college. And yet you just saved us from a potentially catastrophic construction delay. Sarah saved the changes, closed her laptop. Education isn't just about degrees, Jack. It's about being smart enough to learn what you need when you need it. You're one of the smartest people I know. Jack felt his face heat. You're biased. I'm in love. There's a difference. She reached across the divider between their seats, took his hand. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense. But Jack couldn't sleep. He watched movies, read the project files Sarah had given him, stared out the window at the darkness below. Somewhere over the Pacific, Sarah woke, found him still awake. Can't sleep? She asked, voice fuzzy. Too much in my head. Want to talk about it? Jack considered, then nodded. Sarah unbuckled, slipped into the seat beside him, tucked herself against his side. I keep thinking about your uncle, Jack admitted. What he said about me not belonging in your world. He was wrong. Was he? Sarah, tomorrow I'm walking into a conference center full of people who are going to take one look at me and know I don't fit. They're going to judge you for bringing me. Question your judgment. Let them. But what if they're right to question it? What if I embarrass you, say the wrong thing, use the wrong fork at dinner, prove that I really don't belong? Sarah sat up, turned to face him fully. Jack Thornton, listen to me. The people who'll judge you tomorrow? Most of them are miserable. Locked in loveless marriages, estranged from their children, so focused on wealth and status, they've forgotten how to be human. They'll judge you for not having an Ivy League degree, or knowing which wine pairs with which course. And you know what? I don't care. Sarah, no, let me finish. You've been more real with me in 3 weeks than most of those people have been in their entire lives. You've shown me what actually matters. You've reminded me that there's more to existence than quarterly reports and market share. She cupped his face in her hands. So tomorrow, when some executive makes a snide comment about your background, I want you to remember something. You're the one who saved a stranger's life without hesitation. You're the one who raised an incredible daughter alone. You're the one who stood up to my board of directors and didn't flinch. That's worth more than all their pedigrees combined. You make it sound heroic. I'm just a guy trying not to screw up. You're my guy, and you don't give yourself nearly enough credit. Sarah kissed him softly. Promise me something? What? Tomorrow, when it gets hard, and it will get hard, remember why you're there, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, just to be with me, to support the woman you love while she does her job. Can you do that? Jack pulled her closer. Yeah, I can do that. Good. Sarah settled back against his chest. Now sleep. We both need it. This time Jack did sleep, Sarah warm and solid in his arms. When he woke, sunlight was streaming through the windows and Singapore sprawled below, a glittering city of glass towers and green spaces, both futuristic and lush. Welcome to Singapore, Sarah murmured, also watching. Last chance to run. Not running. Not anymore. They landed at Changi Airport, navigating customs and baggage claim with surprising efficiency. A driver waited with a sign reading Chen Enterprises, leading them to a sleek car that whisked them toward the city center. The opening ceremony is tonight, Sarah said, scrolling through her phone. 7 p.m. That gives us the afternoon to settle in, review talking points, maybe grab lunch. Us or you? Both. You're part of this too, remember? The renovation consultant. Their hotel was predictably luxurious, all marble and gold accents, staff who bowed slightly when addressing Sarah. Their rooms were on the top floor, connected by an interior door that Jack suspected Sarah had specifically requested. Unpack, shower, meet me in an hour, Sarah suggested at her door. It's a date. Jack's room was bigger than his entire first floor at home. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the bed was the size of a small country, and the bathroom had a tub that could fit 4 people. He unpacked his 3 new suits, hanging them carefully, then stood in the shower letting hot water pound away the travel fatigue. When he emerged, there was a note slipped under his door. Lunch on my balcony. Come as you are. He found Sarah on her suite's balcony, easily twice the size of his, with a spread of local food laid out. She'd changed into casual clothes, hair down, looking more like the woman from his front porch than the CEO from the plane. Hungry? She asked. Starving. They ate Singapore's famous chili crab, chicken rice, satay skewers. Sarah explained each dish, its history, its significance. Jack listened, watching her face light up as she talked about a city she clearly loved. I came here first when I was 26, she said, trying to establish Chen Enterprises in the Asian market. I was terrified, Didn't speak the language, didn't understand the culture, completely in over my head. What happened? I failed, spectacularly. Lost 3 potential contracts because I didn't understand the importance of relationship building here. In the US, it's all business. Here, you have to connect personally first. Trust matters more than contracts. Sarah smiled at the memory. I went back to my hotel room and cried for 2 hours. Called my grandfather, told him I was coming home. But you didn't. He told me that failure was just education in disguise, that I needed to learn from it, adapt, try again. Sarah's eyes grew distant. So I did. Spent another month here, not chasing contracts, but building relationships, learning, listening. By the time I left, I had 2 solid partners and a foundation for everything we've built in this region. He was proud of you. He was. Even when I failed, especially when I got back up. She looked at Jack. That's what I need you to remember tonight. These people value resilience, authenticity. They'll test you, see if you're real or just another American with more confidence than substance. Show them who you are, someone who doesn't give up, who learns, who fights for what matters. No pressure. Sarah laughed. Okay, maybe a little pressure. But Jack, I believe in you, more than I've believed in anyone in a long time. They spent the afternoon going over the evening's agenda. The opening ceremony would include speeches from Sarah and the Singaporean Minister of Trade, followed by a reception where Jack would meet the key players. Sarah coached him on names, backgrounds, cultural considerations. Mr. Tan values directness but delivered respectfully. Mrs. Lim appreciates humility. Don't brag, even if asked directly about achievements. The Australian delegation will try to get you drunk. Pace yourself. She consulted her notes. And whatever you do, don't mention politics. Singapore's government is complicated. Stick to business and personal connections. This is like studying for a final exam. Worse, the final exam doesn't cost millions in potential contracts. But Sarah was smiling. You'll be fine. Just be yourself. The real you, not some corporate version. At 6, they retreated to their rooms to change. Jack stared at the charcoal suit hanging in his closet, the one Sarah had declared perfect for tonight. $4,000 of fabric and tailoring. He put it on slowly, fumbling with the cufflinks Sarah had insisted he needed. A knock on the connecting door. Jack, can I come in? Yeah. Sarah entered, and Jack's breath caught. She wore a red silk gown that managed to be both elegant and powerful, her hair swept up, diamond earrings catching the light. She looked like royalty, like someone completely out of his league. Then she saw him and smiled, soft and genuine and completely unguarded, and she was just Sarah again. You look incredible, she breathed. I look like I'm playing dress-up. You look like exactly who you are, a man who cleans up remarkably well. She moved closer, adjusted his tie. How do you feel? Terrified, but ready. Good. Because it's showtime. The conference center was a masterpiece of modern architecture. Soaring glass ceilings, tropical gardens integrated into the design, everything bathed in soft lighting. People milled about in formal wear, speaking a dozen different languages, radiating wealth and influence. Jack felt every eye turn when they entered together, heard the whispers start immediately, felt the weight of judgment settling on his shoulders. Sarah's hand tightened on his arm. Head up, you belong here. She led him through the crowd, stopping to greet people, making introductions. Jack shook hands, smiled politely, tried to remember all the names and protocols Sarah had taught him. Most people were cordial, if reserved. A few were openly curious. And some, like the British executive who looked Jack up and down with barely concealed disdain, were clearly skeptical. Mr. Thornton, the man said, voice dripping with condescension. Sarah tells us you're consulting on the renovation. What's your background in international construction projects? None, Jack admitted. But I've got 15 years of structural work in challenging conditions. Singapore's soil issues aren't that different from the mountain foundations I've worked with back home. Different scale, same principles. I see. And your educational credentials? Sarah stiffened beside him, but Jack kept his voice even. Community college. Learned most of what I know on the job. How practical. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. Well, I'm sure you'll find this week educational. He moved away before Jack could respond. Sarah looked ready to chase him down, but Jack stopped her. Don't. He's not worth it. He's a condescending ass who just implied you're unqualified. Yeah, he did. But getting angry proves his point. Better to prove him wrong with results. Sarah studied him. When did you get so diplomatic? About 5 seconds ago. I'm improvising. The ceremony began with speeches that Jack barely heard. He was too focused on the faces in the crowd, reading their reactions, their judgments. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with dismissal. A few, mostly the younger executives, with something like approval. When Sarah took the stage, the room shifted. She commanded attention effortlessly, her speech about innovation and partnership delivered with perfect poise. But then, near the end, she deviated from what Jack knew was the planned text. Before I close, I want to acknowledge someone, Sarah said, her eyes finding Jack in the crowd. 3 weeks ago, I almost died. Trapped in a car, certain my last thoughts would be about quarterly reports and market projections. Then someone pulled me out, risked his life for mine without hesitation, without asking for anything in return. That person reminded me what Chen Enterprises should really be about. Not just profit, but people. Not just success, but significance. The room was completely silent. Jack felt every eye turned to him. That person is here tonight. Jack Thornton, my partner in every sense, showed me that true leadership isn't about pedigree or credentials. It's about character, about doing the right thing when no one's watching, about being brave enough to be real in a world that rewards pretense. Sarah's voice strengthened. So as we open this new chapter for Chen Enterprises, I want us to remember that. Real innovation comes from real people solving real problems. Not from boardrooms, but from the ground up. That's the principle Jack lives every day, and it's the principle I want this company to embody. She stepped away from the podium to thunderous applause. But Jack barely heard it. He was too focused on the tears threatening to fall, on the overwhelming love for this woman who'd just publicly declared not just their relationship, but his worth to a room full of people who doubted it. Sarah made her way back to him through the crowd, ignoring the people trying to catch her attention. You okay? She asked quietly. You just told the entire international business community that you love me. I told them the truth. Problem? No. Jack pulled her close, propriety be damned. No problem at all. The reception that followed was easier. Sarah's speech had shifted something. People approached Jack differently now, with genuine curiosity instead of dismissal. The British executive even offered a grudging apology, admitted he'd been premature in his assessment. Mr. Tan, the Singaporean investor Sarah had specifically warned Jack about, cornered them by the bar. Mr. Thornton, he said, his accent crisp and precise. That was quite an endorsement from Ms. Chen. She's generous with her praise. Or accurate with her assessment. I've known Sarah 10 years, never heard her speak about anyone that way. Mr. Tan studied Jack carefully. Tell me, what do you see when you look at Chen Enterprises? Jack glanced at Sarah, who nodded slightly. Permission to be honest. I see a company that's forgotten its foundation, Jack said, literally and metaphorically. You're building up, expanding, reaching for new heights, but you've stopped maintaining the base. The Singapore office, the structure's sound, but the systems are outdated. You're pouring money into flash when you should be reinforcing fundamentals. Mr. Tan's eyebrows rose. You assess this from plans? From plans and research, but also from watching how the company operates. Everyone's focused on the next big thing. Nobody's protecting what you've already built. Jack took a risk. Sarah's speech tonight? That's her recognizing the same thing. Real innovation comes from solid foundations, not shiny surfaces. For a long moment, Mr. Tan just stared. Then he laughed. A genuine, delighted sound. You know what, Mr. Thornton? You're absolutely right. We've been so focused on growth, we've neglected maintenance, both structural and philosophical. He extended his hand. I look forward to working with you this week. I suspect you'll teach us quite a bit. He walked away, leaving Jack slightly stunned. Sarah was beaming. What just happened? You impressed the hardest person to impress in this room. Sarah kissed his cheek. That's what happened. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of conversations and connections. Jack found himself actually enjoying it. Once he stopped trying to be someone he wasn't and just engaged honestly. People responded to authenticity, just like Sarah had said. They made it back to the hotel around midnight, both exhausted. Sarah kicked off her heels in the elevator, sighing with relief. Feet are killing me. Remind me why I wear these torture devices? Because you look amazing in them? Flatterer. But she was smiling. You were incredible tonight, by the way. Natural, real, everything I knew you'd be. I told a major investor your company is neglecting fundamentals. That could have gone very wrong. But it didn't because you were right, and he knew it. Sarah leaned against him as the elevator climbed. You see things clearly, Jack. No corporate doublespeak, no pretense, just truth. That's rare in my world. They reached their floor, walked to their connected rooms. At Sarah's door, she paused. Stay with me tonight, just to sleep. I don't want to be alone. Neither do I. Sarah's room was identical to Jack's, but felt different with her in it. Softer somehow, more lived in despite them just arriving that morning. They changed separately, Jack borrowing a t-shirt, Sarah disappearing into the bathroom and emerging in silk pajamas. They climbed into the enormous bed from opposite sides, meeting in the middle. Sarah curled against Jack's chest, his arms around her, and for a moment everything else fell away. Not the conference, not the pressure, not the judgment, just them. Thank you, Sarah whispered into the darkness. For what? For being here. For being you. For not letting my world change you. She tilted her head up to look at him. I was so afraid you'd try to become someone else to fit in. But you didn't. You just stayed Jack, and somehow that's more than enough. Sarah, I love you. That means I show up as myself, not some version I think you need. I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other in a Singapore hotel room, while outside the city lights blazed and tomorrow waited with new challenges. The next 3 days were intense. Jack spent mornings touring the office renovation site, afternoon meetings with contractors and architects, reviewing plans and making recommendations. Evenings were filled with dinners and receptions where he stood beside Sarah, her partner in every sense. The British executive became an ally after Jack pointed out a structural flaw in the executive's own building plans. Mrs. Lim invited them to her home for tea, where she told stories about Singapore's history and asked Jack about Emma with genuine interest. The Australian delegation did try to get him drunk, but Jack paced himself and ended up having the best conversation of the week about fatherhood with their team lead. By the fourth day, Jack realized something had shifted. People didn't look at him as Sarah's questionable boyfriend anymore. They saw him as someone valuable in his own right, a consultant who brought practical wisdom, a man who didn't let status or wealth intimidate him. Sarah's partner? Yes, but also his own person. You've won them over, Sarah said that evening as they prepared for the investor dinner. Even the skeptics. I was just myself. Exactly. That's why it worked. Sarah adjusted his tie, the blue one that brought out his eyes, according to Emma. You ready for tonight? This is the big one. The investor dinner was at a private club overlooking the city, 40 people who collectively controlled billions in capital. Jack had been nervous about every other event, but this one actually terrified him. These were the people who could make or break Sarah's expansion plans. Just remember, Sarah coached as their car pulled up, listen more than you talk. When you do talk, be honest. And if anyone asks about us personally, tell them the truth. We're in love, it's real, and it's none of their business beyond that. Perfect. The dinner was as formal as Jack had feared. 6 courses, 3 different wine glasses, conversation that danced around business without directly addressing it. Jack found himself seated between a German banker and a Japanese tech investor, with Sarah across the table where he could catch her eye when needed. So, Mr. Thornton, the German banker said over the second course, you're the famous rescuer, yes? The one who saved Sarah from certain death. I pulled her out of a car. Someone else would have done the same. Perhaps, but you did it. And now you're here, in our world. How are you finding it? Jack considered his answer carefully. Honestly, it's exhausting. All the protocol, the posturing, the conversations that mean something other than what's actually said. I prefer directness. The banker laughed. Refreshing. Most Americans pretend to love our formality. You admit it's tedious. Different, not tedious. I respect the tradition, just not natural for me. And yet you navigate it well, better than many who were born to it. The banker studied him. Sarah chose wisely, I think. You ground her, keep her human. She keeps herself human. I just remind her it's okay. The Japanese investor leaned in. Sarah speaks very highly of your renovation recommendations. She says you see problems others miss. I see practical issues. Everyone else is focused on the big picture, which is important. But someone has to think about foundations, drainage, the unglamorous stuff that keeps buildings standing. And companies, the banker added. Sarah's speech the other night, about fundamentals over flash, that was influenced by you? Jack glanced at Sarah, who was deep in conversation but somehow still monitoring him. We talked about it, but the conclusion was hers. Modest. The Japanese investor smiled. Also refreshing. Mr. Thornton, may I ask you something personal? Sure. What do you want from this? From Sarah? From Chen Enterprises? From this world you've entered? Jack set down his fork, met the man's gaze directly. I want Sarah to be happy. Actually happy. Not just successful. I want to build a life with her that includes both our worlds, not just hers, and I want to get home to my daughter, who's probably driving her friend's mother crazy with astronomy facts right now. He paused. If you're asking whether I'm after Sarah's money, the answer is no. I've got everything I need. Sarah's just everything I want. Silence around their section of the table. Then the banker raised his glass. To honesty, and to men who know the difference between wanting and needing. Others joined the toast, and Jack saw Sarah across the table. Eyes bright with tears, she blinked away quickly. After dinner, people mingled on the terrace overlooking the city. Jack found Sarah alone for a moment, staring at the lights. You okay? He asked, sliding an arm around her waist. Better than okay. Jack, do you know what you just did in there? Had dinner? You won over the toughest investors in the room. The German banker hasn't approved of anyone I've dated since, well, ever. And Mr. Sato never asks personal questions unless he's genuinely interested in the answer. Sarah turned in his arms. They see what I see? Someone real. Someone good. I just told the truth. Exactly. And in a room full of people who deal in calculated responses and strategic answers, the truth was revolutionary. She kissed him softly. I'm so glad you're here. Me too. Even with the 6 forks and the wine I can't pronounce. Next time we'll skip the formal dinners and just get street food. There's going to be a next time. Singapore office needs quarterly check-ins. Someone has to make sure they're maintaining those fundamentals. Sarah's smile was mischievous. And I hear there's this really good construction consultant who might be available. Might be. Depends on the terms. Very favorable terms, includes the consultant's girlfriend and possibly his daughter if she wants to come. Jack pulled her closer. Emma would love that. She's been asking about international travel. Then it's settled. We'll come back in 3 months. Make it a family trip. Family? The word settled warm in Jack's chest. Somewhere along the way, that's what they'd become. Not just him and Emma anymore, but the 3 of them. A family. The rest of the evening passed smoothly. Jack continued to surprise people with his directness, his practical wisdom, his complete lack of pretense. By the time they left, several investors had specifically requested him for future consultations, and 2 had asked if he'd consider permanent positions with their firms. You could have your pick of jobs, Sarah said in the car back to the hotel. Any of those companies would hire you in a heartbeat. Not interested. Not even curious? International consulting, 6-figure salary, travel the world? Jack thought about it honestly. Maybe 5 years ago. But now? Emma's in school. I've got my crew, my community. My life's not perfect, but it's mine. I don't want to trade it for something shinier. Even for me. You're not asking me to trade anything. You're asking me to add to what I have. That's different. He took her hand. I'll consult when it makes sense. Come on trips like this when I can, but my home's still my home. Emma's still my priority. That work for you? Sarah kissed his knuckles. That works perfectly. Because I'm starting to think my home might be wherever you and Emma are, not in some penthouse or corner office. Sarah Chen, are you saying you want to split time between your billion-dollar company and my two-bedroom house? I'm saying I want balance, time with you, time with Emma, a life that's about more than just work. She rested her head on his shoulder. Think we can make that work? We can try. Probably mess it up sometimes, have to adjust, figure it out as we go. Sounds perfect. The final 2 days of the conference flew by. Jack finalized his renovation recommendations, presented them to the facilities team, and watched them implement changes he'd suggested. Sarah closed deals, strengthened partnerships, and somehow found time to sneak away with Jack to explore Singapore. They ate street food in hawker centers, walked through gardens by the bay, took a boat ride to Sentosa Island. They held hands like teenagers, kissed in quiet corners, built memories that had nothing to do with business. On their last night, they skipped the closing gala, Sarah claiming a headache, Jack backing her up. Instead, they ordered room service and sat on Sarah's balcony watching the city lights. Thank you, Sarah said quietly. You keep thanking me. For what? For coming. For being exactly who you are. For showing me that I can have this love and career, personal life, and professional success. For proving that I don't have to choose. She turned to face him. Jack, when we get home, I want to talk about the future. Real plans, not just vague ideas. What kind of plans? The kind where you and Emma are permanent fixtures in my life. Where we figure out how to blend our worlds. Where maybe, eventually, we make it official. She pulled a small box from her pocket, and Jack's heart stopped. I'm not proposing. Not yet. But I want you to know I'm thinking about it. About forever with you. She opened the box to reveal a simple silver band. Masculine, understated, perfect. It's a promise, Sarah explained, that I'm serious about us. About this. About building something real that lasts. She took out the ring, held it up. So what do you say, Jack Thornton? Ready to plan a future with me? Jack looked at the ring, at Sarah's hopeful face, at the life spreading out before them full of possibility and challenge and love. He thought about Emma, who'd be thrilled, about Mary, who'd approve, about himself, and whether he was brave enough to say yes to something this big. Then he held out his hand and Sarah slipped the ring on his finger. I'm ready, he said, for all of it. They kissed as Singapore sparkled below them, two people from impossible different worlds who'd found each other anyway, who'd chosen each other despite every obstacle, who were building something neither had known they needed, but both couldn't imagine living without. The flight home was quieter than the flight over. They were both exhausted, content to simply be together. Jack spent most of it thinking about Emma's face when they told her, about the life they were building, about how a single moment of choosing to help a stranger had led to this. What are you thinking? Sarah asked, waking from a nap. That I almost didn't stop that night. On the mountain. I was late, worried about Emma, focused on getting home. Almost just called 911 and kept driving. Sarah went very still. But you didn't. But I almost did. If I'd been 5 minutes earlier or later, if I'd taken a different route, if I'd made any number of different choices, we never would have met. But you did stop. You did help. You did save me. Sarah took his hand, the one with the ring. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was luck. Maybe it was just a good man making the right choice in the moment. Does it matter which? No, I guess it doesn't. All that matters is where we are now and where we're going. She squeezed his hand. Together. They landed in the early morning, bleary-eyed and jet-lagged. Jack's truck was still in the airport parking lot where he'd left it a week ago. Sarah's driver was waiting to take her to the office for an emergency meeting about the Singapore deals. I'll see you tonight? Sarah asked at her car. Dinner at my place. Emma's dying to hear everything. Can't wait. She kissed him goodbye, then hesitated. Jack, I love you, in case I don't say it enough. You say it plenty, but I love hearing it. He kissed her again.